But we'll see, right?
It should be better.
We're
It
waiting
should
on
be
your
better.
Atlanta Braves to get rolling here. Are they going to win today?
I think so.
I think they're the better team.
For sure. I think that they're the better team.
But
sure.
are they going to win today? I think they're going to win this thing in 5. I say that as a Braves expert. Okay, Dean Legge,
sounds optimistic.
Dean Legge and Ryan Curley again here at Paloma in Athens. Paloma Park, people are trickling in, and I can assure you when the Braves start playing, it will be completely full. So thanks to everybody for joining us. We had a few thousand folks joining us last week online. We're going to do our best with the audio online. Let's start talking about this. Georgia played better last week against against Auburn, but there were still some not great in the first half. I've got sun right in my eyeballs, so that's why I'm going with the shades.
The first half very sloppy in the passing game. I think it got a little bit better in the second half, but still it was never great. But what you saw from Georgia that you didn't see the rest of the year was an effective running game, a running game that dominated. Almost 300 yards rushing, six rushing touchdowns. Dajan Edwards, Branson Robinson, a lot of yards per carry, about 8 for Branson and about almost 7 for Dajan. Dajan is now the leading rusher, per rush.
Per rush.
Almost 100 yards for Branson. We hadn't seen that all year. Them be able to just run the ball and just shove it down someone's throat the entire game. They, from the jump in the first quarter when Dajan Edwards popped off for that 30-ish yard run and he chucked the guy and the pile came in and the offensive line came in. There was a huge pile and Georgia pushed for an extra 5 to 10 yards. That was kind of the moment where it was like, okay, this is a different run game from Georgia, and that was in the first quarter.
And the offensive line played better.
Much better than they did the previous 3 weeks. To me, it's about, okay, can you do that and be effective through the air?
Well, listen, go ahead.
Can you slice up a defense through the air the way you did against Oregon while also running well? You'll be unstoppable if you can do that.
Well, they are averaging. If I've said this a couple times, if I told you they have more passing yards per game than Ohio State, would you believe me? Because the answer is yes, they do. It's insane. It doesn't feel like that because Georgia fans have so much Larry Munson in them, they can hardly help but be negative, and it's just what it is. Now, Stetson did not play well in these last 2 games. I will tell you right now that he was definitely getting hit way more often than you'd like to against Missouri. And then this past week, it was obvious there was something going on with him. But he came out warming up with a tennis ball, which is not ideal. That shows that you've got something jumping around with your shoulder. Kirby said, just live at Paloma Park talking about the Dogs. It was obvious Stetson was not feeling great. Now, what I want to know, Matt Stinchcomb on Tuesday was talking about how they really need A.D. Mitchell back. They really need A.D. Mitchell. It can't just be one player. They're missing on a lot of little stuff. When they get that little stuff figured out, that's when I think Georgia will really take off. Vanderbilt is not a good team. They're allowing way too many points. But the rule at Dog Post, not who you play, how do you play. Last week I thought they played pretty well. The defense is really good.
Yeah, no, the defense is really good, and you just can't get stuck comparing what they were last year to what they were this year. Do. I mean, we do it a lot.
Yeah, that's
what we do. I saw that you wrote that in Final Feelings that we do that a lot because it's fun to talk about, and people want to talk about that. But the personnel is different, so you're going to have a different team because it's not the exact same personnel. And it's not as talented. Maybe it's not. Maybe the talent's the same. It's not experience.
It's not as good a talent. They're not going to have 15 guys on this team drafted, certainly not 5 guys
in the first
round. And the defensive guys in the first round. It's not going to happen. They do not have. Jordan is not out there. Neither is Lewis Seen. I mean, as good as Malachi Starks is, and he is really good, he's not Lewis Seen from last year, and that's okay. So this is a matter of, Georgia fans are harsh. That's what you get when you get the Atlanta market. That's what you get when you have years of frustration. It's tough out there. But, can this team continue to grow? When you were talking when I spoke with folks in the preseason who got the ability to watch the practices before everybody else did, we didn't get the chance to watch the scrimmages. They were saying, hey, this is a good team. I'm worried about the defense. Can the defense grow up? Nobody's worried about the defense right now. Until Tennessee comes in 3 weeks, everybody's panicking about Tennessee. Yeah. So I can't wait for that. But they're worried about the offense. I mean, there's one last thing. There's nothing they can do tomorrow that will back people away from the ledge. They scored 42 points last week. There's nothing.
We're putting up 16 on back people off the ledge.
I think if they have 650 yards, that will say to me, whoa, That's legit.
What would have to happen tomorrow for you to have zero concerns about the offense?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, 650 yards is a lot of yards. You typically get about, I'm so close to the mic here, you typically get about 11 drives a game. That would be about 66 yards a drive. That's basically driving the field and getting a field goal opportunity every single time. What I'm asking is too much. But if they do that, that's
what they did to Oregon, though.
That is what they did to Oregon. And what Stetson would say after the game, and I'll stop filibustering. What Stetson said after the game was, y'all are comparing us to the Oregon game.
Yes.
And you can't, that's not really how sports work, and it's not.
It's not, but they showed what they can do, and so that does matter because that's in their wheelhouse.
That is the marker that's been placed down.
And they happen to do it in game one, which didn't help them as far as comparisons.
It's filling
go.
up at Paloma Park. Folks better get out. This Braves game starts in 20-ish minutes, and it will. I know how this goes. So come on down now. You don't want to wait for too long. Go ahead.
I mean, it's the details. They have to kink some stuff out. It's the offensive line has to play a little sharper.
Right.
The secondary has to play a little sharper. Stetson has to play.
Stetson needs to play better. That will help.
I mean, if Stetson's on his mark and they're scoring more points because I mean he's missed a few balls. I think the loud one last week was a combination of the two of them, but the Brock Bowers one, I mean that should be a touchdown.
Should have hit
that. It wasn't even inbounds. Even
should have hit that.
It was that pass was way off, and that's a scoring opportunity. But it felt like they slowly scored 42 points last week. But look, 42-10. That's about what they're averaging on the season.
Yes.
It's about 40
Actually,
to 10.
It is very
it's almost
close.
exactly.
39-10.
So that's a top 10 margin of victory.
I mean, I would say
top
4
5.
touchdowns is a pretty significant.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're top 10 or they're around the top 10 in scoring, and they're certainly in the top 10 for points allowed.
In both, yeah. I was going to say their defense scoring is not so far from the top. Their offense is as productive as almost anyone. There's someone who's like kind of an outlier. I can't recall who it was off the top of my head, but they are running up and down the field. But I think just people want to see more touchdowns.
Well, they need to score more touchdowns.
When
They've kicked far too many field goals to this point, and
I like
good
points.
for Jack Podlesny. And yes, you need to score, but they need to score more touchdowns. Another positive from last week against Auburn that we were not seeing for about 3 weeks there, red zone execution. I think they scored every single time they got into the red zone, a touchdown.
Correct.
And that was something that was lacking against Missouri. It was something that lacked against Kent State. Something that lacked a little bit against Samford. They executed way better. Now Auburn's a bad team, but most of those teams aren't great. And Auburn's a bad team. But
is South Carolina better than people thought?
What did people think? I mean,
well, they just beat Kentucky pretty solidly. I mean
is Kentucky just a lot worse than what people thought?
Well,
I think
I don't see how Kentucky is still ranked. I mean, based on beating the Gators, they're still ranked. I mean, their game against State is a ranked fight. Up at Lexington in the Commonwealth. So they're, but I think tomorrow, it's going to be homecoming. There will be a homecoming king and queen, their homecoming court and all that stuff. We're going to get to your homecoming crush here at some stage. Okay. We're not doing last names. We're not doing last names because that could be a little creepy. This is appropriate. It's not yet.
All right.
But it's a wonderful Friday afternoon in Athens, downtown. How many more of these do you get, Ryan?
Only a few more.
Yeah, only a few more. And the next time that Georgia plays here will be anxiety-ridden, I suspect.
In the town
for Georgia, because they will be very aware of what Tennessee.
And part of that is going to be what happens tomorrow with Tennessee and Alabama.
Sure,
it's going to determine.
You are taking the Vols straight up, right?
Yeah. No, I'm feeling bold this week. Ups alert. Bryce Young has still not been cleared to play. Right. That matters a lot. I don't think Jalen Milroe wins the game. If Bryce Young is not playing, I definitely think Tennessee's going to win.
It would be tough to win that game.
Even if Bryce Young's playing, I think Tennessee, I mean, we know how loud it gets there. It's going to be rocking in Neyland Stadium tomorrow. They're quick. I don't think Alabama's as sharp as they were. Last year, they weren't super sharp to me either. They had to fight it out a lot. They're not going into Neyland and winning by double digits if they do win.
So, if you read what we wrote this week, if you read what I wrote, I talked about Alabama. I mean, I don't have to, every time we talk about Georgia, I have to talk about Alabama. But in this case, of their last 12 games against Power 5 schools, which does not include Cincinnati, so there's a little bit of a mirage there. In their 10 wins, 5 of them have come down to the last drive or play of the game. So this is not the Alabama that you were in high school with, and I was in
here.
Well, when I was here, Alabama was not good, just straight up. I mean, actually, they won the league one year, losing to Southern Miss. But in my earlier years, this is not the Alabama that we've grown accustomed to over the last 12 years. So I think Alabama will win just because their default is to win. I'm a little bit.
They've won championships while losing a game in the regular season. So even if they lose to Tennessee tomorrow,
it's not done.
Doesn't mean that they're not going to go on and win the national championship. That'd still be possible.
But dude, listen, you can't play like that against. What if Georgia went out against Auburn and played like they did against Mizzou?
I think they'd still win. I think they still would have won that game.
What would the psychotic level?
Out.
Yeah,
people would be freaking out. People were freaking out. The phone blows up more when they're losing.
First of all, they were I thought better than Texas A&M. They just got into a situation where they had to defend the goal line in the last play of the game. He missed a couple kicks. Alabama was the better team. But then against Texas, it was sort of the same struggle. My expectation is that Alabama will win that game. I don't know where, there's something missing.
Is Tennessee better than Texas?
Yeah,
Alabama should not have beaten Texas.
Well, they might
not. Does Alabama beat Texas
Alabama's
if Quinn
default
Ewers
is
plays
to
4
win.
quarters? Does Alabama beat Texas if Quinn Ewers plays 4 quarters in that game?
I don't know.
What do you think?
I don't know the answer to that. They still would. Yeah, I'm a total sycophant. I don't care. I would imagine they still win that game. That would be my expectation. But you got to beat Alabama twice. You're not just going to beat them and that's, it's cool, man. No. You have to beat them twice. If you don't in that game, you will not win. And that's a credit to them, okay? Tennessee is going to – I know we're talking a lot about Alabama and Tennessee. Tennessee is going to be frothing at the mouth. My brother-in-law is I got a brother-in-law that's a Clemson fan and a brother-in-law is a Tennessee fan. So in the 90s, one got to experience pure euphoria. They both experienced disaster in the 2000s, okay? And then the other got to experience euphoria until, it feels like Georgia broke them in Charlotte. So Tennessee is frothing at the mouth for this. I've been to Neyland. I can't tell you how many times. I know there's doubt, but that place is going to be crazy tonight, tomorrow, and all of it. Alabama has seen crazy every time they go on the road. This is nothing new for them. Now, what the problem is the quarterback is not so hot. But you got to play a full 60 minutes to defeat them. You have to play a full 60 minutes to defeat the Dawgs, and that's just all there is. That's where we're at right now. And if Tennessee thinks they're going to roll the ball out there, and because the crowd is loud, which it always is at Neyland, or that Bryce Young isn't playing and that Alabama's just going to magically lose, no.
No, it's not going to magically happen no matter who's on the field. They're going to have to beat them. They're going to have to score fast, and they're going to have I think they'll have to have a turnover or two.
I get that, but that doesn't mean, I'm not, an Alabama stan, but I'm just saying I've been around the block long enough to see if you're going to beat them, you'd better be ready to beat them twice. And I'm not talking about officials. They're just winners. Either do it or you don't. And we'll see. I think Tennessee can do it.
What do you mean by beating them twice? Are you talking about to put them out for the year?
You're not just going to beat them because you're up 7 in the fourth. That ain't good enough. You have to stop them on the last drive. Huh?
That's never been good
enough. No.
You have
to do the Keely Ringo deal. You have to pick them off. You have to stop them. Now, Missouri experienced the same thing. They were like, bro, we got these guys beat. We're up 10 in the fourth. And the place was going crazy. They're like, we're going to win. And the Cardinals are going to win the World Series too, which was more important. But no, you have to, these teams that are in the situation that are in now, they have earned where they're at, and you have to knock them out.
You have to start the game and you have to finish the game strong.
You
can't finish weak against.
No, and we are at Paloma Park talking about the Dawgs. The Braves will be on the TV. Paloma Park is on Washington, downtown in Athens. When the traffic gets bad downtown, just park the car. You're going to get your ticket anyway. Just park your car, come down, get yourself some pretzels. It's happy hour right now. We're here. Let's talk more about Georgia Vanderbilt. Ryan has notes, and I think the sun is out of my eyes for now.
I think Matt was kind of right when we talked yesterday about it being a get-right game. I think they have momentum now that they were lacking the couple weeks prior to that because they weren't on top of their game. A little closer to being towards the top of their game against Auburn. I thought it was a great defensive performance outside of one play. And them running the ball effectively and executing in the red zone matters a lot. Now they have momentum heading into this homecoming game. You hope that A.D. Mitchell gets woven into the fold a little bit this week. They might not do that just so he has the bye as well. But
that's what I would do. I'd wait. But
you have a lot of guys that are banged up. You
coward.
just sit most of them. I mean, Jalen Carter's not going to play tomorrow. So
no.
This is a game, Athens homecoming. It's going to be another busy weekend. Athens was the busiest last week that I had seen in 3 years.
So explain to everyone here, we've had some alums in the crowd. They want to know your experience this past weekend. How bad was it?
If you weren't getting in the bar, if you were not out by 8:30, 9 o'clock, you'd have to wait an hour. I took videos. It was in the behind the scenes everywhere. Saturday, the traffic on Friday last week. The game was filled up. I hadn't seen it that busy since Notre Dame.
Do we ever? Is it a dog post rule? Do we ever pay a cover in Athens?
Oh, we haven't talked about that, but no.
I think the answer is no. No, you do not pay covers if you can help it. Right? You come in now. You won't. This is the place to be for now. So. Yeah, I mean, but Auburn's such a big social game. Vanderbilt, not at all, right? I mean, it's
no, it's not.
I don't know if it's a get-right game. Like, I mean, Georgia needs to play well. I mean, we're talking about this. They need to be sharp.
Okay,
yeah, we're talking about that. We are. Let's keep this in mind. We're talking about the number 1 team in the country right now.
Last year, you said the Vanderbilt game was the game where you just kind of knew that something was different. They went in there and they were as sharp as they were the entire year, 62-0, just complete. It was a murder.
Yes.
You want to see something similar like that this year. Now, it's a different situation, different teams. They've got the freshman quarterback who's been slinging it around the last couple of weeks in Swan. And it's a different Georgia team, but they can do that again to this Vanderbilt team. Vanderbilt is bad enough for them to do that again.
Vanderbilt is better on offense than they were a year ago. They were really bad a year ago. But Georgia to win 62-0 is not at all out of the question.
No, and I think
nothing
confidence,
is a lot, though.
that confidence
shutting it down
that would create heading into the bye week would bode very well.
They are going to smash Florida's skulls in. That Florida does not have the capability over a 60-minute game to play with this particular team. You know, Florida can play with teams that will make mistakes. Now, if Georgia makes mistakes, that's a different conversation. But Anthony Richardson has not yet shown that he respects the football enough to, for me to take them seriously on this front.
Well, I mean, he's just not a great quarterback.
No,
right?
not right now.
He's a super athlete.
Not right now.
He is, and he's just not great at the position to this point. And I haven't seen anything that tells me he's gonna sit back in the pocket and deliver a bunch of strikes and beat Georgia. It's just it shouldn't even be close to that.
He's not gonna.
And they destroy. I would argue that was his worst game of his career. Was probably against Georgia last year. Different defense.
It was bad.
But it's same talent. You have the same talent. A lot of the guys that they replaced with, it's the same talent. So
you have to play quarterback against these guys too. You can't. Robbie Ashford last week.
Well, he was just running for his life the whole time. And you can't run for your life and beat Georgia. You can't run for your life and beat Alabama.
No.
When these teams get beat, it's by elite quarterbacks.
Yes.
I mean, Alabama getting beat over the last 10 years. Who are the quarterbacks
Johnny
that lost?
Manziel,
Johnny Manziel.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Stetson Bennett.
Yeah.
You can make fun of Stetson, but he balled out that night.
He's one of those guys.
Wow,
Chad Kelly, who was elite in the SEC.
Let's discuss the Stetson Bennett thing.
What
are we doing right now? What is beyond just the typical criticism of the Georgia quarterback, which I'm old enough to remember I'm old enough to remember Quincy Carter, okay, and Mike Bobo. I'm not going to tell that story. The internet has made it worse because I think there are legitimate criticisms of Stetson Bennett. But I think sometimes people just go a little bit aggressive sometimes. Like last week, he did not play super well. He gutted that out against Missouri hurt. So I want to see what he does this week as well. But do you think folks are too harsh on Stetson, or is this the typical, he's the starting quarterback, and this is what we do. Because I think that's a lot of it.
It's a combination of both of those
Aaron
things.
Murray got murdered when he was here sometimes.
Every quarterback at Georgia's had their fair share of bad games, and Stetson has had bad games, don't get me wrong, and last week to me was a bad Stetson game in the air. He showed what he could do with his legs, and that is one of the main reasons why he has been the starting quarterback for Georgia, is because of what he can do on the ground. His escapability in the pocket is probably his most impressive trait.
Yeah, that matters.
We talk about him having the sixth sense inside the pocket, and
Okay. We're soft talking too much.
we need to get it. Oh,
Yeah.
but it's a little overboard because you've seen him clutch out fourth quarter wins.
Yes.
The two most notable being a couple weeks ago against Missouri. I mean, he was perfect when there was 10 minutes left
In
in
the
the fourth quarter and
Alabama game,
beyond.
yeah.
He was accurate. He made the right decisions. He
was
made the
very
right
good in the
throws,
second half
and
against
they-
Vanderbilt. No
and
question.
then the Alabama
Excuse
game,
me, Missouri.
in the national championship, he made the right throws and he came in and did his job. And you've seen him do it with his legs. You've seen him throw a bunch of touchdowns. Think about the UAB game last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. It's UAB. You're way better, but not just any quarterbacks going in there and doing that. He made the right throws. Some of those were to wide open guys down the seam, but it doesn't
but-
matter. He made the throw.
You're going to get criticized if you don't hit that
Yeah,
ball.
exactly.
We saw that last
and
week.
What we're seeing is him not hitting some of these deep balls the last few weeks, and he has to hit those guys. He's got to clean up. I don't know
Yes.
if it's
No,
partially
he has to hit the open
he's
guy.
got to hit those
period.
guys.
Now,
And, he's got to stay in the pocket a little bit longer and
so
and
that's
step
hard.
up. and
That's
make it-
harder
I
for
know.
me to see.
I-
You know.
He
That's the harder.
does. Sometimes he panics a little bit and just starts running around, and that's what you don't want to see. That's what you see Robbie Ashford do. That's what you see a lot of inexperienced quarterbacks do. Part of that's been because the offensive line has played below what we thought they
Right.
would be playing. But against Auburn, there were even some times where it's like, okay, Stetson, you just need to wait another second or two. Someone's about to be open, but no one sees what he's seeing. So it's
Well,
hard
I
for
mean,
me
how
to
many
get his-
games has Stetson started now? 20-ish, more than
20-ish,
20.
if we're
Yeah,
including
more than 20.
2020.
So he's got 2-ish years of starting experience. I mean, he knows what he's doing back there. They're barely missing, which is good and bad, right? I mean, like if you're barely missing, like, why are you barely missing? Secondly, that doesn't necessarily get right. What helps though is a run game. Okay, and you take away his 60-yard run last week, 68, whatever it was.
62.
And they still ran for 220-ish yards.
And 5 touchdowns. If you take away one Stetson run,
that's a
so
lot of production in the run game. And what makes things easier, and perhaps the reason why he was playing better in the second half, was they had the run game to lean on. And that was something that it helps a lot. Someone on the chat here is saying, well, he was hurt. I mean, I think he was definitely banged up. I asked him after the game, are you good? And he said, I'm fine. And then Kirby said this week he's a little bit banged up.
Yeah.
So this is what we do, and that's fine. I mean, but he obviously was not exactly right. And then just to me though, this is the world we live in. It's October. It's literally the middle of October. Georgia's they're undefeated. They're the number 1 team in the country. People aren't worried about the Gators so much now. They're worried about Tennessee, who will come here and have a very hard time winning in Sanford. But people are concerned, and I understand that. Stetson has to play better, but if he plays better against Vanderbilt, that will not win him. And he's got to. If he doesn't win the national championship again, there will be critics, and it's just what it is, and that's okay. For me, it's cleaning up a little bit in the pass game. If the run game gets going a little bit better, you're not going to ask Stetson to throw the 30-ish balls. I don't want any quarterback in the if you can help it to throw 30.
Usually when he's throwing that much, it's because they're not playing as well.
Yes.
So the games where you
Yes.
see him throw, the SEC championship where he threw, I think like 50 times almost, something like that.
Oh, he was trying to save them. It was
because
too late.
He had to save him. It was
Yeah.
too late. Or if
It was
they're
too
just in a
late.
panic, obviously he threw a lot of balls against Missouri in the second half because they had to. People didn't know if he could mount a comeback. Can he mount a comeback? That's what happened against Missouri. It wasn't a huge comeback, Well, I mean, double digits in the second
That's
half.
what happened
It
against
doesn't matter.
Alabama.
It's what happened against Alabama. So some of the criticisms are people just crying about
just
something
don't
because
like
they
Stetson,
can,
which
or
is
they,
fine.
they don't like Stetson because the star rating matters so much to
Walk-on
them.
thing, his height.
It doesn't matter. And I got DMs this week about that. You know, if Stetson's banged up and he's not playing at his best, why don't they just put Carson in? Well, a couple of reasons. If Stetson banged up and playing well is still good enough for you to win 42-10, and you don't take your starting quarterback out of the
Carson
game.
played last week, did he not?
He played a little bit in the second half.
No throws.
I don't think he had any throws. And the other thing is, if you know that Stetson is your starting quarterback, that there is no controversy, and you want to keep it that way, if you're Kirby Smart, why you don't just start Carson Beck if Stetson's good enough to win those games? Because then it causes the whole wheel again that you saw where you saw with Fromm and Fields, that you saw with Easton Fromm, that you saw last year with Stetson and JT. You don't want that again. It's negative attention.
Yeah, DJ and David.
This is the first year in a few years since Fromm was just the starter, that Stetson's just the starter. That they know who the starting quarterback is, and you want to keep it that way.
Yeah, because in 20, I mean, someone says, well, you should write a book about 20. I started writing a book about it, and I could not finish it.
Oh, we got.
And well, here's your crowd. They're getting ready. They really like us, man.
Yeah.
They're like Sally Field at the Oscars. We're already up.
Oh, we can get the scoreboard if I just move.
Well, I can see it, man, but it's on like a delay. We're at Paloma Park, which I have to tell you, a lot of folks have not been back to Athens since COVID. This is like a new, I don't want to call it a jewel, but there's a lot of space, a lot of fun. The crowd is starting to.
It's a fun place.
We're getting going here for sure. But come on down when you get done. If you're on 316, which most of y'all are driving in from Atlanta that way, come downtown. Come to Paloma Park. We'll be here until 7, and there's no reason to not come. After 7, it's even better after 7 because it's dark. But we've got shade and so forth, and the Braves are on TV.
Why don't you talking? You were in the Talk Kirby to Me.
Oh yes, Talk Kirby to Me shirt from our friends down on our friends at Red Zone on Clayton. I've been in Athens my whole life. My father, where I grew up, is just like, I don't know, not even a mile walk from here, and I still get confused with the streets. Is that bad?
It's Broad, Clayton.
No,
Washington.
I know Broad. I get Clayton and Washington confused. Clayton is actually one of the prettiest streets in America when they do the decorations.
Well,
and all that stuff.
they will now. They've repaved everything. It looks
Yes.
nice. I was angry
Huge.
during the process.
Huge construction.
I had to be angry
project.
about something, so that was one of the things I was
Yes.
angry about.
Angry Ryan.
But now it looks good. It looks good. It's clean. So now that it's done, I'm glad. But it took way too long for them to repave that, man.
Well, progress takes time, my friend. It's not easy.
Don't do it during the school year. Do it during the summer. You know,
The school
so it's
year is
like,
9 months out of the year.
You have a couple months
In the
That's
summer.
when you got to do it.
Well, I'll get on GDOT immediately and let DOT make sure they know when Ryan says they can do their stuff.
I can
If you're
sign
watching
off on the construction.
If you're
needs.
watching us online, make sure that you're checking out Paloma Park. We really appreciate them. Let us get to broader audiences, because although the majority of people here are Dog Post people, not everyone is.
Yes.
Not everyone is.
There's some people that are just here for their Braves, whether you believe that or not.
I don't know why you would just be here for the Braves when you've got this duo here. And all of the snappy commentary. These, by the way, this is the Braves' best jerseys, are their rose jerseys. Anyone else?
The Grays?
I love their road jerseys.
I like
They're
the
not in
Grays.
Atlanta anymore, but it does still have Atlanta on their chest.
I like the Grays. I like the Reds and the I just don't like the Blues. I'm not a fan of them.
I don't like the red.
I do like the red. I think the white's
The
the
red
best
is a
one.
Sunday deal.
The red is a Sunday or some Friday nights, I think. But I'm a fan of the red when they're playing at night. Looks really good.
What was this discussion of Georgia possibly doing all white at some stage this season?
No, was there? I was just saying it looks good. Well, the recruits are wearing
The recruits,
all
of course,
white.
love it.
The recruits, well, they let the recruits wear any sort of combination.
What if Georgia came out in black tomorrow? What would,
people would freak out in the stands?
Negatively?
No, in a great way.
The students would love
Yeah,
it.
the students would love it. They would have liked the heads up, but so they
Right,
could all wear
right,
black in the student
right,
section.
right.
But no, people would freak out. I think a lot of people would love if they came out in black. And it was the 2007 game where they were out in red and then went back in the locker room.
Yeah, so that was the
if
Auburn.
something like that happened, they would freak out. And the crowd is something that we talked about. It's something that I wrote down to talk about today. You went on a rant on riding home after the game about Georgia's crowd. A couple weeks before that, I went on a rant about the same thing.
So my rant is directed at these students very specifically.
That was mine as well.
Okay, and I like the non-students because they pay our bills. Okay. With that said, it's your ticket. You can do what you want. You can boo. I don't boo at a college game. It's just, but the bars will be there. It's 5:30. You can hang in there. It's a 14-0 lead. Auburn looks really bad, but you can hang in there for another quarter.
You gotta be loud when.
Well, the students are loud. The students are loud.
What I'll say, as much as we criticized them after the game last week, they did help cause a couple false starts and a couple
no
timeouts.
question. That's my point.
But that's gonna happen every game.
Well, not if they're not in the stands. Not if they're not in the stands.
Someone commented, when the tickets get cheaper, we'll come and be louder.
So this is here's capitalism for the students who are watching. There's something called supply and demand, and they're going to take your supply from you if you don't come to these games and stay. The university has already done that once. They will take your tickets from you, and they will give them to people who pay not just for the tickets, but for the contribution as well. It makes more sense economically for the university for the athletic department, to use those tickets for boosters who will pay, like a G or 2 Gs just to get 2 tickets and then chill out in the stadium. They're going to take the tickets from y'all. I don't care. I'm on the field. Doesn't matter to me, right? It doesn't matter. But if you're not going to show up, they're going to take the tickets, and they're fully within their right. It's their tickets. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah. You gotta show up and be loud. When it's third down,
you're not loud right now. Don't eat the microphone. People want to hear. They want to know.
No, it's got to be better. You can't leave when it's a tight game. The Kent State game to me was inexcusable. The way that happened. But against Auburn too. It's 14-0. It's hot. I don't care if you're hot.
What if you're driving?
There's way hotter in other stadiums.
What if you're driving back to Tifton? Georgia's up 20 or 21. I mean, Tifton's like 4-ish hours from here. I mean, that the traffic is legit. So I get it. So I will excuse those people.
Well, I don't care if you're getting sunburned. Put some sunscreen on. There's people complaining about this. I'm getting
Ryan
sunburned.
Curley does not care about your skin cancer.
As someone who gets burnt easily,
he does not care about your skin cancer.
Put the freaking sunscreen on if that's your problem. If it's too hot for you, it's October.
It was hot.
Get over it.
It was definitely hot. It's their ticket, but they will take the ticket from you at some stage. Paloma Park is gonna be here after the game. They're here during the game.
Good things are happening.
What is happening? Are they first and second with how many? 1 down?
1 out.
And you should see me trying to figure this math out. It's like I'm in 10th grade right now. I can barely.
Just do that.
Oh no, I actually get it. Okay. Scoring position. Did they score here? Will your Atlanta Braves score?
Yeah, you want to get it.
I was so mad with them in 1992.
Okay,
and I was so angry with them. There's only 1 down.
You got to capitalize.
You're gonna need to get at least a run in here.
Capitalize.
You need crooked numbers, Ryan. Or are they gonna get 1? You could get a double play here if we're going full Larry Munson. You could get a double play and be right out of this thing, and old Lady Luck will get you to the dugout. Now Ryan is in a full panic. So 1992, the Braves are at the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're gonna turn 2. All right. Men on the corner. Let's get 1 in, right? Ryan?
Yeah, you got to get 1.
If you're going to win in the postseason, you got to have 2 out hits. It's the whole reason the Phillies have got it's split right now. Is that they 2 out hit the Braves to death in the first game.
Well, the pitching was bad in the first game as well.
They 2 out hit them to death, man. It was insane.
It was. I don't freak out at that one game. You got to.
I don't either. I still think the Braves win this in 5.
Yeah.
But I think it will be in 5. Did he get in there? Barely. That was tight. That was like the Missouri game in the fourth quarter.
You need to get at least 1 run here.
But dude, now we're talking about getting a 2-out hit. Can you stroke a 2-out hit? Who is this? Or get on base. I mean,
Definitely
he's
safe.
almost 80% getting on base. That'd be fine too. 60 RBIs. That's pretty good. Is it ribbies now? Or is it RBI?
I don't see
People are
ribbies.
really, really sensitive about the baseball lingo. Baseball people,
I'm casual baseball.
baseball
So I'm
media
casual.
guys are really sensitive about that.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely
Like,
are. I
man,
do
let
know
it
that.
go, man.
I do
You
know
know?
that. Branson Robinson should get more carries is a comment we just
Well,
got.
he-
Something that we talked about a little bit this week.
So Branson had 12. Let me get this up on the screen. I think he had 12 runs.
12 for 98
Yeah,
and a
I mean,
touchdown.
that's really good. And that's a good day when you're winning 42-0. And he,
Yeah, 8 yards a carry.
what's that?
He had 8.2 yards a carry.
What was that one run around the, I think it was the left side? That was really where we've not seen that from him yet. That explosiveness around the
Well,
corner.
because he's barely gotten any touches, and he earned those touches, and you saw the explosiveness on both sides. I mean, he ran well to the right and to the left. Saw that he can break tackles, saw the burst, saw the speed, saw the strength. I do think he should get more carries, just because he's too talented
not to.
not to.
Yeah, so he had 12 for 98. Deshaun Edwards had 12 for 83, which is hardly terrible with 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I
And he
mean,
almost had a fourth. He almost had a receive that got called back. That touchdown.
I don't remember that. They must
He
have
had a
scored.
receiving touchdown. He scored. They got called back.
Did they score thereafter?
They ended up scoring. I think it ended up being that Branson touchdown. I believe that was that drive.
Well, I think, I think when you're looking at Georgia, if they're going to start running for 200 yards a game,
Well, are they going to start running for 200 yards?
well, they
I
might.
don't know that.
They might. I mean, you got, obviously Vanderbilt's going to have some real issues. Florida may stick in there with them. I mean, people forget that the Gators, they've got players. But I don't, Tennessee is like, we're going to skip ahead 3 weeks. Tennessee's defense, like they're the game against Alabama is really going to tell us a lot because, Florida is not ideal. And yeah, it's okay. It's not going to be the only time you get guys on bases. Florida is not. They've got guys. Tennessee, we will see defensively what they can do.
Tomorrow's going to tell us.
Well,
all
I mean, if
about
Alabama's
Tennessee's
scoring
defense.
30 on Tennessee on the road, which seems
does that turn into a shootout? If you're Alabama, you really
I would-
really want Bryce Young in there.
prefer not
tomorrow.
to be in a shootout with Tennessee if you can.
Does
help it.
Alabama? I mean, that game against Texas A&M doesn't make me feel any better about Alabama than I did before. They're lacking the details as well. The Georgia's lacking details right now, and
Little ones.
they look
Very-
better than Alabama. And Alabama's lacking.
How
details.
much have you watched Ohio State?
Very little.
Do you think Alabama's not going to get to the playoff?
If they lose to Tennessee, I don't think they're going to the playoff
Why?
because
You
I
think
think
they'll lose
Georgia will
to-
beat them in the SEC championship.
Do you think they would lose to State? I think both.
I don't think
I've
Alabama will
read
lose
about
to
this
State.
week. I think Georgia could lose to Tennessee. I think Alabama could lose to Tennessee. I think State could beat Georgia. I think State can beat Alabama. They both share some opponents here where, Georgia goes on the road to State. I think Alabama's at home with State.
They are. They're at home at
Geor-
State next week.
Georgia, coming off the extremely emotional game with the Gators, you're going to come back home, which will be, it could be a noon game. I doubt it. It looks like CBS at 3:30. But, I think there's going to be a lot of emotional toll on the Dogs in that sort of 14-day period where they will play 3 games. The most emotional game Georgia plays every single season, no matter what, is Florida, period. They will play that game in Jacksonville. They will win that game in Jacksonville. How much energy will they expend emotionally, okay? Number 2, they will come back here to Athens, which will be the biggest game of the season, as it turns out. That could be 1 versus 3, I doubt it. That could be 1 versus 10, more likely. It will be a huge game. It will almost certainly decide the East. Can you really play 3 games in a row where you are geeked up out of your skull because then you got to go to State? Okay, for those of you who've never been to State, I mean, Kentucky, South Carolina, Missouri, these are all kind of the same. Mississippi State's in the same universe. They don't really hate Georgia, so you don't have that sort of thing. But it is a road game, and it's challenging to hear anywhere. Once you can't hear, you can't hear, and you've got to start using your, hand motions and your signals and all this stuff. You've got to start executing on offense. You cannot have false start penalties. Can this program do that 3 weeks in a row? I think they can. They did not have to do that last year, okay? And it's rare in a season when they don't. I have one more thing before I turn it over to you. A season ago, when the SEC put this schedule out, and I said, man, they're playing Tennessee and Florida back-to-back, and people are like, Tennessee sucks. Okay. Well, now Florida sucks, right? We're led to believe. But it doesn't matter. You're playing Tennessee and Florida in back-to-back games. Why don't you schedule Auburn and LSU in back-to-back games? They're both not great. I guarantee you it's going to take a physical toll. So that's why you're going to see a heavy rotation, probably against the Gators on the defensive line. That's why it would be ideal to get Jalen Carter back. We've not talked a lot about A.D. Mitchell. This is the time where you've got to set the table for this little stretch run. Georgia's preseason is about to be over.
Yeah, no, the next, after the bye, there's your season. What can you do in that stretch? Do you go down to Jacksonville and just smash their skull in? You got it, and then you got to come back, you got to win, and then you have a not fun 2-week road trip.
And then
because
you gotta go to
they're
Kentucky.
far, it's not close. Yeah,
Well, it's not close.
It's
past.
not close.
Anytime you got to go past Auburn, it's like, ugh. I thought about flying, and I looked at it. You can't fly. You can't fly in Mississippi State. And there are no, I hate to break it to you, there are no hotels there either. You got to stay in Columbus.
Done that.
Well, we're going to have to stay in Tuscaloosa. We're going to stay in Tuscaloosa.
Hour-ish.
It's not the end of the world. I mean, State and Tuscaloosa are right next to each other. But, for Georgia, it's just a quick, they're just flying in and out. It doesn't matter. But do they have the mental wherewithal to get it done against the Gators and then have what will be clearly an emotional, fight with the Vols? Whether if Alabama rips their heart out, the Tennessee game's going to be tough, okay? And then can they back that up a week later by going to State, which very well could be a night game?
That's going to be a weird one, too, because
State.
you've got Will Rogers going to be back there throwing 60 so times, and
Yep.
it's a different type of preparation
It's-
you have to
it's-
go throughout their league.
Space Tanker's
Tennessee
shaking
is
his
not
head.
an
He knows
easy
it's a
team.
weird game.
Tennessee's not an easy team to prepare for because of how fast they snap each ball. They're all completely different. It's going to be an exhausting road trip. Can they get up for it every Saturday
Well, I
for
don't
3 or 4
know.
weeks?
I don't know.
They
that's
didn't have
the
a stretch like
challenge.
that last year where the combination of travel and difficulty of opponent. It wasn't as difficult. So
in 14 they did. So they played Manny and Todd got suspended, and then they went Arkansas at Arkansas. No, excuse me, at Missouri, at Arkansas, week off, and then the Gators. They drilled Arkansas and Missouri back to back, and people were like, "Oh, the hard part's over." And they got beat by Florida. Now, Jeremy Pruitt was the defensive coordinator, couldn't figure anything out. It didn't seem like, and you did not have an ideal offense, which was basically just Nick Chubb was trying to hide the challenges of having Hudson as your quarterback, but they couldn't do it 3 games in a row, and it is hard to do it 3 games in a row. Last year, Alabama lost, Michigan win, Alabama win. So it is tough stringing 3 games in a row together against really good teams. Is Mississippi State really good? I don't know. I mean, they're not going to be good if they lose to Kentucky. I know it's tough to play in the Commonwealth. It's tough to win at Kentucky. I get that. I've been there. It is tough at night. They're playing there at night. But, bro, I mean, listen. State is not going to win the West. Let me just say that right now. Before.
if it's not Alabama, it will be Ole Miss.
Well, State is not going to win the West. They've already taken away their margin of error because they're not going to beat Alabama, but they can still win the West. And they still got to deal with Ole Miss and all that stuff. So I want to see the toughness of this team. That tomorrow, getting 650 yards, that's not toughness. That's just execution, okay? I want to see what this team can do when they need to put Vandy away in the second quarter. Will they do that? Or are you sitting there goofing around in the third quarter?
You want
I don't think they will.
the game to just feel over in the second quarter. Now, the Auburn game, to me, felt over in the second quarter. I didn't think Auburn was going to come back from 2 down, 2 touchdowns.
Didn't they have 6 first downs the whole game?
It was bad. I can't remember the exact number. But you want it to just feel, you want to have a 30-point first half against Vanderbilt. You want to assert your dominance. You want to send a message of fear to the rest of the country. If Georgia's, every team, I think I wrote this. If they can have a combination of the way they threw against Oregon and the way they ran against Auburn, and that just be their offense, every team should be fearful of playing them.
But you don't play perfect games.
No, you don't play perfect games, but they haven't played a balanced game. It's been one or the other.
Well, I can't recall against South Carolina what they did.
That was a little more balanced, but that was mostly through the air. I mean, you had the big Brock Bowers play, and then you had red zone rushing touchdowns.
So your Braves are through the first inning scoreless. They had men on the corner, couldn't get one in with 2 down. I do think that putting it together completely is always challenging. It's particularly challenging when you're missing really good players, offense. And mainly what people are talking about is on the offensive side of the ball. That's where people are kind of like...
And everyone, and you know why, is because everyone freaked out about the defense in the offseason. Oh, this defense is not going to be as good. This defense is not going to be as good. No, it's not. But it's not bad.
Oh, no, it's
and
not
it
bad.
Because, and I'm part of this problem, I guess.
Okay.
Because I talked all offseason about how good this Georgia offense was going to be. And they're really good. They're a top 10 offense. And we haven't seen some things. Some things have not been unlocked. There is definitely a giant section of the playbook that we have not seen. And they won't shell out till a game like Tennessee.
So
but the Georgia offense, I think I said they were going to average around 45 a game. Well, they're at 39, 40 right now, whatever. It just doesn't feel like they're killing people the way they did last year. It doesn't feel like they're just blowing people out, but they are blowing people out.
Oh, they're definitely
people are
blowing
just
people
complaining. People are just complaining.
Right, but they have a right to complain. I guess.
Well,
yeah, they do. They do. Particularly people that pay at dog pose. But I guess what I always try to find out, and this is what we do in Riding Home, is what is the appropriate level of sticking your chest out or getting totally concerned. Where are you really at? And what I would say is, right now to me, your number 1 team in the country is either Georgia or Ohio State. You've got Alabama trying to figure a few things out, and we'll see if they do. I would say Michigan is probably next. Clemson's trying to figure some stuff out, although the betting public is just killing them at Florida State, being a 3.5 point favorite.
Yeah. Well, I'm predicting some weird things to happen down in Tallahassee. I think Florida State actually covers, but Clemson just gets out of that. I'm not impressed with what I've seen from Clemson so far. I do think the NC State win at night by double digits is a good win, but I also think the NC State's not quite as good as what they were hyped up to be in the offseason. This was a team that came in as a top 10
NC State,
team.
they never fulfill their potential.
Clemson has their cupcake schedule that they have every single year that they're going to probably fly through.
They probably will, but we're still talking about Clemson here, and there is no game they can't lose.
No, but they should win all their games. They should be 13-0 and make the playoffs.
Well,
that's the thing is they should.
But they got to go to Notre Dame, who is not great. But when you ever go on the road,
but they're definitely better than Notre Dame.
They're better than Notre Dame. And the other thing is, and not this week but next, they host what is right now an undefeated Syracuse. And before everybody rolls their eyes, Syracuse beat them in 17. They had to survive Syracuse in 18. I don't think they'll lose to Syracuse, but again, there's no game they can't lose. They've proven that through the last 10 years that they're just, they'll just drop them. It happens. That's them. But I don't want to get sidetracked on Clemson. Got Oklahoma State.
They're still
the
a
Rebels.
And Oklahoma State is not a favorite at TCU. They're getting 4 points from Vegas.
And you've got the Rebels. But is there anybody in the West that you would actually pick against Alabama at this second? I don't know that I would.
I would still pick them to win all their games in the West. I'm just saying, if it's going to be someone, it's going to be Ole Miss. But even that, that'll be an interesting game between the two of them. Tomorrow is... What are we looking for?
And my man is out here competing on crutches. We're at Paloma Park in Athens. It's getting much more crowded. The Braves are in the second period.
The weather's awesome.
The weather is great. Awesome. There's not that much.
There's a lot of shade out here.
There's
in
not
the
that much
beer
wind,
garden,
which is good. This is a beer garden. These folks have gone with a mixed drink pitcher deal. I don't know
Paloma on draft.
It's called a Paloma.
Yeah.
We're going with just straight up cans. Although he's going with a glass Modelo is a very good drink.
It is.
It's his new favorite beer, but it is in glass. So he's
What
dipping
was
the
it
rest of the
before?
table. We got mixed over here. We got repeat customers over here.
The guy that thought I was not 6'1", that was him.
Oh, well, you're not that tall. It's your hair. May I touch your hair?
Is it really?
You have great
It's
hair.
deceptive. Thank you.
Deceptive. I have more gray hair than I would like.
I hope it
does that work?
doesn't leave me.
Oh boy.
You know my
we're really
crisis.
getting in this trip to the therapist here soon.
Yeah. Shortly.
Who was your homecoming crush? No,
Like in
Not
high,
yet?
no, we went in our high school. Well, you remember I didn't go to a normal high school. Like,
You went to a public school.
It was not a normal place at all.
South Carolina game. We got a big win over Kentucky. He's celebrating here.
Why is he here?
Well, it's just what we do, man. We don't,
I get why they're here.
we're not. We love it. We don't care.
We would just go in groups for homecoming. Prom, we would go in
come
date. We
on.
would just go. Yeah, no, we call it lame if you want.
Two down for the Phillies.
You know, but homecoming was more fun because it was chill. You didn't have to
was
you didn't have to
easier.
rent or buy a tux or anything like that. We would just wear button downs.
So when I was 13 years old, the first time I went to homecoming,
when you were 13,
I was
that's-
13 years old.
So you were going hard. 13-year-old.
And back in the day, we
Did you have a date as a
I did.
13-year-old?
I did. Her name was Rachel. We're gonna leave. We're not doing last names. And she went to Georgia actually. Her dad won an Emmy.
Is that your flex that you?
I just thought it was bizarre that he won an Emmy, but he was a very nice guy. I had to wear black Jordans to homecoming because I could not get dress shoes. I had size 16 when I was 13 years old. So I have Jordans on.
What size are you wearing right now?
I still have 16s.
I'm a 12 or 13.
I have 16s. There was a guy I played AAU with. You know Jabari Smith? We'll do
Yeah.
We'll do last names now. Jabari Smith's dad and I played basketball together for 5 years. Jabari had a 15, and he was 7 feet tall. I had a 16, and I'm 6'4"-ish. I don't even know if I'm 6'4". That's kind of a lie, frankly.
I think you're 6'4".
I don't know about that. Oh, the Braves were up to bat. Wait, who was up to bat? The Braves? I'm getting
I'm not
confused.
really
I'm never
watching.
watching
I'm
on this
watching a
thing.
little
It's very
bit on
confusing.
our screen. Your grays are piling up.
They are.
Shane says
Thanks,
your grays are
thanks,
piling up.
Shane. I appreciate you pointing that out. They are piling up. Thank you to my 2 lovely children who are not here right now. Thank God. You've all been warned. You've all been
running
warned.
around in circles and circles.
What, me chasing them?
Yeah, you'd have to.
Stop!
Yeah.
Let go of your sister.
Yeah.
It's quite a competition between my 2.
For attention,
You have
or-
more. Yeah.
We have a lot of stuff.
Let's get to this one right here. We will not be
Yeah.
here during, this actually is the true midway point of Georgia's season. We're at Paloma Park in Athens, downtown, Washington Street. Let's call it Washington Road like we're in Augusta. Washington Street, downtown in Athens. This is a relatively new place. It is awesome. Paloma Park. Everyone's having a good time. They would like the Braves to score a little bit more, I think. We'll see how that
Or at
goes.
all.
But the game is on the giant. How big is this thing up here? It's like a
Well,
100-foot deal.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
very-
And then they can do the 4 split screens
They
for the
can,
NFL and
but
everything
right now
like
the
that.
Braves are on. That is
Well,
a
right now you got pizza.
No, it's a giant.
Grad school team would
that is
smash
a
that whole thing,
huge-
right?
That is a huge screen right there.
Are you eating that whole pizza?
I'm not. When I was at Georgia, I could eat that, no problem. This guy's gotten a pitcher too. So these pitchers have become very popular today. What are they called? Palomas.
It's
Which
a
is
pink
what?
drink. Should we?
Oh, it's $15 for the pitcher.
We should grab one of those.
Get one. 5 drinks for $15. That's not bad.
No, it's a great deal.
That's a great deal. Oh no!
DAWGSTRUCTION fell
Did DAWGSTRUCTION fall?
again.
Poor Keely. I got it.
It's just gonna fall back.
It is just going to continue to fall. Let's see. Listen, everyone at home. I am letting the people know. The people at home get so aggravated, but we don't care. This is how we pay our bills. This is how we go to Middle Earth.
Oh yeah, about.
Listen, the link might not be
Against
down
our
below,
will.
but you can Google DAWGSTRUCTION, and you know. And
I think
have
it is
them-
down below actually.
I have them today here on site. I will be glad to sign them for you for Christmas and etc. or Halloween
The
gifts.
link is down below.
My daughter thinks that she should get Halloween gifts.
What would those be? What are you asking for Halloween?
Delusion and candy, both.
Okay.
Quite clearly.
I do miss Halloween is one of the things I miss about being a kid. It's still fun now, but
No, it's not. I turned the lights off.
For you, I'm in college.
It's
So
kind
there's
of
a-
Ryan's walkabout
No.
on the
no.
prowl.
No, but trick or treating, I miss that stuff.
You don't trick or treat. You're looking
I'm
for.
talking about
you're
when I was a
looking
little
for
kid.
co-eds. Ryan is not available. He is taken. Right?
No.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
Where are you getting that from? You're just broadcasting to the
There are dozens of people watching us live.
to the 77.
It's 88 because our face page is
It's
on there
changing.
as well. Yeah, it does
So
change
the
from time
current
to
the
time.
current 88 people, you're spreading lies to them.
Ryan is available if you are a 30-year-old mother, but you have to be
Yeah.
very good looking and divorced.
Yeah, no.
We're 6 games in the season.
That's the criteria.
We're 6 games into the season. Where are we at here? I mean, everybody, I think, if they had just
they're one of the 2 best teams in the country,
Okay.
and that's what we expected heading into. It was just a matter.
no. So this is just a conversation with Stetson last week.
Stetson the third, Stetson the fourth.
Stetson the fourth. Stetson can get a little bit jumpy sometimes, but he was saying, and I think Kirby did too, but it was definitely Stetson. Weren't you right there with us? We said, oh, no, not in the summer. It wasn't like this. He said after we
Which
played
game are we
Oregon.
talking about?
Last week against Auburn.
I heard.
When we came
I
back.
was there.
And Stetson was like, no, these expectations weren't like this in the summer. It was after we played Oregon. And he's right. I mean, once they beat Oregon Skulls in, everything changed. Then all of a sudden everybody wanted to see them play like that every single week. When Georgia beat Nick Saban's LSU team in 2004 here, I mean, they beat their brains in 42-17 or whatever it was. I mean, people were frothing at the mouth. A week later, they lost to Tennessee, 1914 in 2004. This was a tight game, and it cost them the East. It was a painful loss. Everybody always wants you to play the exact best that you can play. It's just hard to pull that off, So anyway, where are they at the first games, 6 games of the season? You want to talk globally or specifically? Where is Stetson? We'll start with the quarterback.
Stetson is not where Stetson needs to be.
Okay.
All right, where Stetson needs to be is not even what he was against Oregon, because that was the best game he's ever played from start to finish.
It was better than the Michigan game?
Yeah, it was. The best game Stetson's ever played was against Oregon.
Okay.
He's got to be closer to that than what you saw him last week.
To me, that is, I'll just say this. To me, that's good because it means he's played his best game recently. Okay,
Yes,
generally speaking.
it wasn't last season.
I don't know when C.J. Stroud's best game is, but it was probably this year.
I mean, he threw 6 touchdowns 6 days ago.
Well,
So,
did you see Bro last night for UCF? I don't know what we're doing with the Space Command jerseys.
I didn't watch that.
He threw
no.
7 touchdowns. He scored 7 touchdowns. John Rice Plumlee. It was
John
7,
Rice
right?
Plumlee is the UCF quarterback now.
He is the UCF quarterback.
Oh,
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And they had their whole space uniforms. It was bizarre. They were actually in a fight, and then they won 70-something to 14. I mean, they crushed them, and they were in a real deal fight with Temple for like 30 minutes.
He's got to be better than what he was the last 3
Okay.
weeks. It's got to be closer to the way he played against South Carolina and Oregon, which was near flawless. You don't have to play flawlessly, but you have to play better. Offensive line needs to play the way they did against Auburn, because for a month there it was like, oh well, maybe they just aren't as good as what we thought. You're looking at Stetson's numbers.
Very
Clean, just a very clean game.
So
for
against Stetson, man, I want to try to. Oh, can't do it that way. Against cancel. Against South Carolina, I'm trying to make this bigger here.
So-
Yeah, I messed it up. Everybody.
Enjoy the colors for a second while
There.
we've got the
Now.
colors on the screen.
Against
I have to shout out to this username. It's funny to me. All is calm. Cryptos and relax.
cryptos, plural.
Cryptos and relax. Easy out.
Isn't all crypto plural? Isn't all crypto plural?
Yes.
It would have
I
to
don't think
be,
there
right?
is a crypto. I think it's just crypto.
Crypto is like deer.
But we can't. We don't know enough
I
about
don't
crypto
know.
to talk about
I
crypto.
certainly do not. 16 of 23. So more people are coming out. Again, we're at Paloma Park, downtown in Athens on Washington. Ryan has threatened to get a picture of Paloma,
I have.
and it's not happened yet because he's a
I
coward.
can get up if you want to hang out up here by yourself.
I can talk about myself. Stetson was
That tells me that you really want it.
I'm just curious what we're dealing with there. 16 of 23 for 284, 2 touchdowns. He has a 78-yard throw, I guess, to Brock.
It was.
Okay,
Ooh,
I can't remember. Is that
that was not 78 yards.
No,
The
I
one
don't
with
think so
Brock.
either.
Why am I blanking on his 78-yard throw against South Carolina?
I don't know, but you know, my suspicion is that Stetson will get it rolling tomorrow. He did not play well last year against Florida, generally speaking. But you know, you look at these scrapes. It's kind of hard to play be better than 25 of 31 for 368.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he has to be that good, but
and
he's got to be.
Stetson's
got to play the way he did in the first three games. If he just plays like that, they're beating everybody.
So I don't think he played so horribly against Kent State, to be honest. 27 of 36, 272.
No, it's the red zone execution. That's what it was.
With the pick. The pick was like, I don't know what that was. The Missouri game was tight. That was a fight. 22 of 32 for 208. Now, that's what he did last year. Okay, how about your running backs? What are we talking about there?
I think you got to give the ball to Dejan Edwards and Branson Robinson more. You do. Those guys they're more effective right now. They just are more effective than McIntosh and Milton are. And McIntosh is your most versatile guy. You need him in the passing game. But you got to feed Edwards and Robinson on the ground. Those are the guys where it's like, okay, here's 3 or 4 carries in a row, and they're getting 20, 30 yards. You have to feed them. You have to let them get into a rhythm. Just this rotation of just, okay, it's Edwards. Okay, it's Robinson. Okay, that doesn't work as well as just giving someone a drive. And, like, that's what you saw with Robinson. That's what you saw with Edwards. That's where they're successful.
What I wonder is, you've got clearly 4 backs who can do it, it seems. But there's no number 1 guy. Am I wrong? I mean, is there a number 1 guy?
There isn't. We thought it may have been McIntosh, but it's just not.
Whereas a year ago, Zamir was your number 1, and then you had James coming off the bench to scare you.
Well, to me, it was they were like a duo to me.
Okay.
They had different purposes. Zamir was your possession back, the guy that you just went with throughout the drive, the guy that you punched into the end zone with, and James was your weapon. They had 2 completely different purposes. I think the assumption people
James
had,
Cook was a scary running back.
And not having James Cook hurts them this year.
Well, I thought
and not having Zamir White in the locker room hurts them.
Well,
and
just
and on special teams, and just his mere presence and his consistency. He knew he was going to get you 3 or 4 yards.
Yes, Zamir was a steady running back. Zamir and James, I think, and this is not putting these 4 guys down. Zamir and James have been around the block. And, you know, they're both quiet guys, but their consistency, I really hate using the term leadership, but their steadiness all the time, you could depend on them. Yes, they missed that. They do, because Zamir was basically 4.5, 5 yards a carry. And people were like, he wasn't the guy. He was not the guy I saw when he was at high school. He was the best high school football player I have ever seen. And I saw Aaron, I saw AJ, I saw Eric Berry. Who's that?
Trevor and Justin.
Trevor, Justin, and they were all really good. They were not what I saw with Zamir White, who had 13 carries for 13 touches for 300-something yards. It was crazy. That was not what we saw at Georgia. What we saw at Georgia was Zamir grew up, and he said, okay, I'm not going to just slash everybody. I have to go get some yards right now, okay? And they did. He did that consistently. Who is Georgia's consistent running back right now? You know, Kendall's fighting a groin deal.
Dejan Edwards has been the most consistent running back. It might be Edwards. He's now the leader in yards by like 1 or 2 yards.
It might be Edwards.
He's their rhythm guy. I mean,
the P's and the K's are hard on the microphones. Kendall might be, you know, when he gets back, they're both at 287. I don't know if we'll see Kendall tomorrow. That's a good question. I cannot recall if Kirby said that we'd see Kendall tomorrow. Can you? Because he
I don't think he did clarify. I don't think he ever clarified if he's playing or not.
This is what Dog Post is for. Because I can't remember let's
check around the site.
I cannot recall every single thing that Kirby says, but he was.
So this was Monday.
Yeah, but so he said, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, get back. Turnabout. Jalen Carter. So he's equating Smile Monday's injury with Kendall Milton's injury. So they both were.
And Smile did not play.
He did not play
at all. That's why you saw Ryan Davis so much.
Okay. So Smile Monday They really got hurt at Missouri.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that right now.
I mean, Missouri really gave it to them, man.
Georgia really got banged up at Missouri. Smile Munden, Jalen Carter, Stetson Bennett for sure. They had plenty of injuries that they did not have at the start of the season. They accumulated those at Missouri, okay? A.D. Mitchell's not played since a real game since the South Carolina game, okay? And you can kind of notice, can't you? You there? You alive?
I did zone out. I did.
What happened there?
That hasn't happened in a while. There was nothing.
You were thinking
There
about...
was literally nothing going on.
But tell me about the offensive line.
So
Recently, it's gotten better. I think at Missouri, it was not ideal.
At Missouri, it was...
That was weird. So what just happened with Acuna? Is he out or is he safe? It looks like he's safe.
Looks like he's safe.
Let me just check this replay out here, Ryan. What happened with your Braves? Look at those gray jerseys, man. Those are the best jerseys they wear.
You would rank it gray, white, blue, red.
Oh, he had to throw it from third. You got to dig that out, man. Oh, he didn't touch the bag. Oh, that's not good. That's not good baseball from the Phillies.
It's like a baseball from either team. Look,
What?
watch this angle is much better. Didn't even touch it.
No, he didn't.
Barely gets it.
He
Doesn't have the ball.
Doesn't have the ball at all. Now, do you go here? Do you try to steal second? How many down? There's no
He's
outs,
good at
right?
that. No,
I would
think
send
there's
him.
one out.
This might be one of those games where
There's one out.
they're going to call it an error on the first baseman, I would imagine. Ah!
It's foul. It's foul.
So tell me about your offensive line here. What are you working on there?
Well, the biggest complaint over the course of the year has been Tate Rowledge from the people. And watching, I mean, he gets pushed back a lot. And the passing, Missouri, it was just not good enough against Missouri. The entire offensive line. Stetson, they were getting to Stetson too much. They were pressuring him. You're enjoying this chat right now.
Well, I just one of them made a comment about Ryan. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
It wasn't good enough against Missouri. I think that the offensive line's best game was maybe against Auburn. They fought, and it felt like there was a fire lit in them. Talent-wise, they're there, but the Missouri, I don't know if that was an outlier, just how many times Stetson was pressured. It just was not good enough. I thought the offensive line got banged up against Missouri. I look back at Xavier Trush getting hurt and no one talking about that because it was probably minor. Tate Rowledge, he's coming off of we're talking about a huge dude coming off of a foot surgery. All right, the amount of pressure he puts on his body every single day.
Yeah, we're certainly at Paloma Park. Here's the TV behind us, and I can only do it very quickly there. It's hard only having two hands. Pressed the wrong button again. Uh-oh, there we go. It's challenging out here, Ryan, with just one hand.
Enjoy the colors.
Just briefly. All right, tight ends.
They need to get the ball more, man. That's
Okay.
what my video that went out, I guess, an hour and a half ago was about. They need to get the ball more. Look across the NFL and look across when you have a superstar in college football. Those dudes are getting the ball like 10 or 12 times a game. Brock Bowers is one of those guys. He should be getting the ball 10 or 12 times a game because he is a threat to score every single time he touches the ball. I think they need to... I'm not an offensive coordinator. I'm not
You're
a
not?
Football coach. No, I don't know if you
do
knew
your
this about
fingers
me.
work? Can you type? Because you'd be a digital
I'm an
offensive
armchair
coordinator.
quarterback, or whatever you want to call it. But what I do know is you need to get the ball to your superstars. And Brock Bowers is a superstar. Look at Jamison Williams last year, was getting the ball a bunch every game. Look at Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. And then look at the players in the NFL that are superstars, that are just getting the ball, that are getting schemed the ball, and they succeed and they score because of that. That has to happen with Brock Bowers, too. It has to happen. I think you need to get him the ball in more ways, and I think Darnell Washington needs to be used in the red zone. We're talking about like a buffer LeBron James in a football uniform.
Man, LeBron James cannot possibly be as big as Darnell Washington. And I know LeBron's a big guy.
I think LeBron might be a little taller, but Darnell's bigger.
Thick,
Darnell's bigger, and Darnell could probably jump with him.
I mean, you've seen him play basketball.
I've seen him play basketball.
You're not going to go on that court?
I'm not going. I've seen him dunk from almost the free throw line. I mean,
we had this discussion.
And you don't buy it, but
I just have been around enough basketball guys that just doesn't happen. But he is so long.
He's athletic enough.
Listen, man. I had 5 years of basketball at Tucker. I had AAU with the Atlanta Lakers, and I had college basketball. And in that time, I literally never saw anyone jump from the free throw line and score a touchdown. I can assure you I never did.
And score a touchdown?
Or score a touchdown. Or dunk. No, I've never
seen someone score a touchdown from the free throw line either.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Why don't you zone off into space and have get back to your Ryan zone? How about the receivers? Boy, the sun is killing me right now.
Your number one has been out.
Yeah.
A.D. Mitchell being out matters. The relationship Stetson he has matters. Lad McConkey is not a number one receiver. He has a very good receiver.
Maybe not.
I do think he has NFL potential, but he's your 2 or your 3.
Okay.
I think Dominic Blaylock needs to get mixed into the fold. He looks healthy. It looks healthy to me. It looks like he's making all the cuts that he was making 3 years ago. They've eased him back into the mix. It's not a superstar receiver room, and it never really ever was.
No, but
missing your star receiver I think that's definitely hurt them. That puts more pressure on guys like Brock Bowers. I mean, that puts more pressure on Stetson because he's down his best receiver. The run game helps open that up a little bit, but the A.D. Mitchell injury I think has affected them far more than maybe we would have thought.
Well, not that he's the same level necessarily, but you don't have Arian Smith either. So your off the top guy is not out there right now. Don Blaylock is not that anymore, and so it's a challenging situation. But Todd Monken said he gets paid to score points.
Yes.
And they're still scoring points. I have held that Georgia will probably be a different team when they get to Jacksonville, simply because they've got so many players that are not playing perhaps as many snaps as you would like. Jalen, AD. Now you're going to have Kendall out. So there's just too many injuries right now at spots with really good players. In theory, your best offensive player, it's not their best offensive player, but A.D. Mitchell is out, and then certainly your best defensive player in Jalen Carter is out. These are explanations. They're not excuses. It's something that, Georgia's got to figure out. They have this game, and then their preseason is over. So that's the offense. Defensively, let's talk about the front seven, and then we'll get to the secondary.
Well, look, the front seven's where you lost most of your pieces over the offseason. Right. You lost all 3 starting linebackers, and you lost all 3 of your defensive linemen. And
Trayvon Walker.
And 4 of the guys, of the 6 guys we just talked about, were first-round picks. So that's a big deal. And you can see in the distance, we got some
major. Oh, it's the homecoming parade. I forgot about that. It's happening right now. They're doing it special for me and you. They're probably not coming out Washington.
The majorettes are here to dance for us.
They're dancing specifically for Ryan Curley. I think the front seven, you got Smile London out now too. But honestly, let me just go on the spiel real quick. If you're not downtown in Athens today, you're really missing it. Okay, not just Paloma, but they're about to have this parade.
It's gorgeous.
They're literally, I don't see a cloud.
Not from our angle.
And it's just extremely nice out. People are buying $15 pitchers with 5 drinks in them.
Day drink. That's
not
what it says
Ryan. Not Ryan. But other smarter people are. Smarter people are. And, you've got the Braves on back here. Let's get through a 1-2-3 here again. Inning. No need to get jumpy. The Braves have had. I think the Braves have had men on 2 of the 3 innings. I don't think they did in the second. So you can kind of start taking advantage of your situation here. But it is a beautiful day outside, and you can come here, get your beverages before you go out at Paloma on Washington. We're going to hear the Redcoats. I don't think we're going to see the Redcoats. If they're doing the same parade as they always have, UGA will be out there. A lot of the fraternities and sororities will be out there. The Redcoats will be out there. A lot of the organizations will be out there. We will not be out there. We'll be here with y'all hanging out still. If you're streaming online, make sure you pick up the book. It's down below, and visit our friends downtown in Athens. Again, Paloma Park. We'll be here until 7. Defensive front has been good.
Good, not great. Last year you saw greatness in the front seven.
I mean, you're being really. I think you're being very picky.
You think I think
they've been very, very good.
I'm upset about. I think they've been good. They haven't been getting to the quarterback the way that you would like. It's kind of here and there. And some of that is just okay. They're getting the pressure. They're not finishing the play, but that you can't sack someone every single play. So the sack numbers is not the concern. You do wish that they would get to the quarterback a little bit more. I think that it's gotten better as the season's gone on. Missing Jalen Carter in these games matters because he is an instant double team.
Jalen's not played a ton this season.
He's barely played, but when he is out there, he is an instant double team, and he's a wreck. He's knocking dudes down with one arm. He's shoving people. He's pancaking people. You can't guard him one-on-one because he's too good. So his presence on the field will change the way that the defensive line plays.
It's going to be really challenging for the Gators. It's
If
going to be really
he is
challenging
back
for
against
Tennessee.
Florida, he's coming back against Florida or Tennessee, it seems. So
I would
it just
say
depends-
Florida would be my
I would say
guess.
probably Florida. This is a different front seven when he's in there. Now, the best, and this is not really a surprise, but the best thing that's happened to this front seven this year has been Jamar Dumas-Johnson.
Okay,
In my
go
opinion.
ahead.
Has just stepped into that Nakobe Dean role, and I think he's played pretty much as well as you can ask him to. He's more vocal than Nakobe Dean. They're opposites in their personalities. Nakobe was the quiet, he was kind of the silent killer, and Jamon he's chaotic. He's out there screaming at people. He's a lot more like Nolan Smith.
Yes, he is.
Those are your two most talkative guys on the team. He is all over the place. He has been sideline to sideline. He has been that middle linebacker that you need, that you saw with Nakobe Dean, that you saw with Roquan Smith. He stepped in, and the drop-off has been very slim between him and Nakobe.
They have recruited so well defensively that this should be what happens. Like they should be very good on the defensive side of the ball, and they are. Are they as good as last year? No. We don't always have to do that, but I will. And it's just one of these things where this team's strength, as much as everyone likes to talk about the offense and perhaps complain about the offense, I get it. But this defense could be the reason why, you see another one of these moments with Keeley, flying down the field
There's a lot of guys that can make those plays for Georgia on defense.
The only criticism in theory that I would add is, they could have more turnovers. They did not help themselves against Mizzou at all. They could have helped the offense out. Pop narrowly missed an interception. But I think the front seven is one of the best in college football.
It is.
It is not what last year's was.
No front seven is what last year's was in college football history almost.
Right, we might not see that again anytime soon.
No.
Now, in the secondary, I've shown Keeley. You're talking about Keeley, Christopher Smith, got Dan Jackson back there.
There's experience for sure.
There's a lot of players.
But your star has been Malachi Starks.
Well, I was going to get to him and Lassiter as well. You also got Tyke Smith. There's a lot of
Javon Bullard.
There's a lot of guys who have played a lot of football at Georgia, who are playing or have played a lot of football. Period. Who are playing for this team right now. The challenge will be. Probably not tomorrow. Vanderbilt's offense is better than it was a season ago. Probably not tomorrow, but certainly when the balls roll into town and you see everything kind of, that will be a serious challenge for this secondary. And you cannot say, oh, Bo Nix scares us after death, or Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler doesn't play quarterback. He is a quarterback. Okay, he doesn't play quarterback. And then you've got, Hendon Hooker, who certainly does play quarterback. And he will be a major test for them.
No, he definitely does, and man, he threw a beautiful deep ball last week. I thought it was over, and it was on the money.
He can throw it.
But this secondary definitely has to tighten up. More specifically, the corners. I talk about this a lot. They're getting beat more than they did last year.
But they're running right there with those guys.
They are.
I mean,
for Keeley
is right there with them.
Keeley's right there with them, but he's reacting. He's got to be more proactive.
Okay.
He's reacting to the ball. And there's been a lot of plays, in my opinion, where Keeley could have, not a lot, a handful, where Keeley, all he had to do was put a hand down and it's an incomplete pass. Kamara is the one that's getting burned a little bit more. You see him kind of lag off the assignment. I've seen a few times where someone scrambles and he's coming off the receiver a little bit, and that receiver turns out to be wide open. So he's got to stick to those guys. But it's been better than the average cornerback duo in college football. It's a very talented cornerback duo. The safeties, you have a lot more versatility. You have the leadership in Christopher Smith, and Christopher Smith can do a little bit of everything. And then the athleticism, the talent, the intelligence of a young guy like Malachi Starks. He flies all over the place.
Malachi Starks has been just exceptional.
He's been what
has
you
been
thought he would be in year 2 or 3. You know what I mean?
He has been exceptional.
I mean, that interception against Oregon
That was
is one of
amazing.
the most impressive catches I've ever seen.
Amazing.
And he's had 2 more almost like that interceptions where he's just dropped the ball. One of them he rolled up under it wrong, and the other one he just dropped it. That one was against Missouri.
How about here we are with
We're getting a bigger crowd.
1
in
and
here.
2. Yeah, we knew this would happen.
It's for
1 and 2
us.
count.
We get it.
There's a lot of Braves fans out here.
Apparently Strider's been pitching really well.
Why can't you grow a mustache like the pitcher?
What was one of the rules at Dog Post? No mustaches?
We have no mustaches. I'm just.
So,
That's not ideal. Don't let him get the third. Well, he's got to get the guy out at home, and then you just dig it out from there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a 2-out. You're a 2-out situation. It's not the end of the world. Just can't let him in. On the special teams front, the punter has been, when he gets the punt, he's been very good.
Yeah, Thorson's been very good. There's been no really drop off from. Jake Camarda was drafted as a punter.
He's a starting punter right
He's
now.
a starting punter. He's one of the 32 punters in the NFL.
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
So, and he's done well over there. And so, a guy that's constant like that for you, and he had his ups and downs, but he was a weapon at times. Thorson's been good. Jack Podlesny has been near perfect. I think he's missed 2 field goals this year. One coming against Auburn last week that you said you knew he was going to miss.
I knew he was going to miss.
Just because he's been
It's just
asked to
asking a
do
lot.
so
Yeah, it's asking a
much,
lot to keep
but he
going.
has really delivered for them this year. The special teams has been good.
I'm not sure they beat Missouri without Jack.
No, they don't beat Missouri
Kept them
without
in
Jack.
that, and I'm not sure they beat Alabama in Indianapolis without Jack. Both those kickers last year in Indianapolis were exceptional.
But no one calls him Jack, apparently.
Well, I do. That's his first name.
not-
I'm not trying
Kirby
to.
had no idea what you were talking
Well,
about.
I mean, who else?
So are the shades of choice right now? Is it just kind of?
It's every time I look at you,
Oh,
I have to.
I get it.
I get an eyeball full of sun, and I'm not into it. That's the real challenge right now is trying to discuss this and look at you with seriousness, without you zoning out like you did a minute ago.
I did his own.
What other things do you have on your? Oh, you've got games to pick.
We've got.
I think the crowd is really wanting to soak
They're
in this
really Braves
particular
right now.
concern.
You want to go solo? I get us something.
No,
Do
you can if you
the
want to.
prices?
No, you can if you want to. Go ahead. I'll tell the story of the Braves.
Okay.
And me being aggravated with the Braves and then them surviving it. So this is 1992. The Atlanta Braves were in
I'm gonna get
Pittsburgh.
your pink drink.
Atlanta
Are you man
Braves-
enough to drink a pink drink?
I'll drink it.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Braves were in Pittsburgh, and Sid Bream was on second. Francisco Cabrera came. Look at that mustache, is legit. And I had given up on the Braves, understandably. And here comes that hit. I was in bed in Tucker, trying to go to sleep. Didn't work out well. And Sid Bream came flying around. Flying around is probably not the right way to put it, but scored the winning run. Francisco Cabrera was the most popular person at Tucker High School the next day, I can assure you of that. All right, Ryan is going to go get something to drink. We are still here at Paloma Park. The homecoming parade is either started or it's right on top of it. And we're going to be here till 7. It is really filling in. The Braves are going to play probably at least till 7. We're talking about the Dawgs, a little bit about the Braves, and we really want y'all to come out and say hello. I can see how many people are watching us online. That's not good. So the Fillers are going to take a lead here. Could be a double. And we're going to talk about our picks here, some of these things too. Who would you rather have? Some of these questions that he's got are interesting too. And if you've got questions online, you can ask them, but we're not going to talk about benching Stetson Bennett because that's not going to happen. Certainly not after this season so far. But another beautiful downtown day in Athens. I'm not sure there's been many this nice. This is nice. It's not even 70 degrees yet out here. So we talked a little bit earlier this week about what Matt Stinchcomb said about the Dogs missing A.D. Mitchell. I don't know if AD's going to be back. That's something that's been kind of up and down. Kirby doesn't give a real great answer on these things sometimes, which is his prerogative. But he would change, AD Mitchell would change the look of the Georgia offense for sure, simply because of his ability to go deep. You know, his connection with Stetson is pretty evident based on what they did against Alabama in that national championship game. They knew on that play, both of them told me they knew on that play what would happen. They had man coverage. They were waiting to be in the position they were in. And the next thing you knew, after that turnover, you know, Georgia was up 19-10 and didn't give the lead back up. That was one of the pivotal moments of the national championship game against Alabama. You know, tomorrow, with the team that Vanderbilt will deploy, I am skeptical that, you know, Vandy will have the capability to hang with Georgia in a 4-quarter game. Ryan has returned like a champion with a Paloma.
Yeah, it's a Paloma.
It's called a Paloma, which is just the same thing as the name of the place. I cannot.
I got you. I got it.
I was talking about tomorrow my skepticism about Vanderbilt being able to hang with Georgia for. You hit him? Oh, it's gone. Goodness. Braves in 5.
Yeah.
Not Braves in 3.
No.
Do you pull him at this stage? Because they got somebody in the bullpen. He's running fast.
Who do they have in the bullpen right now?
I didn't see it. You think Matt DeBerry's freaking out right now about his Braves?
He's definitely freaking out.
Well, he crushed that ball. What's in that? What is that, tequila?
Yeah. Are you man enough to drink a pink drink?
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah. It was good.
I don't care at all. Let's get into some of these topics you've got here.
We've got a lot of stuff.
How about picking games?
Yeah.
I got a long list of those.
Let me look at it.
It's early in this game. I mean, we're talking about the 3rd inning, so there's plenty of games here to go.
Those are
all
my
right,
picks,
let's go.
but
All right, let's go.
there you go. So Auburn, Ole Miss.
You call it a disrespectful
I thought
line.
the line was disrespectful
Okay.
for Ole Miss.
All right.
14 and a half. I mean, the line
It's
last
at
week
home.
was.
They're at home?
They're at home. And they
Man,
are
so that
much
means
better
Georgia
than
would be
Auburn. Georgia last week against Auburn.
massive favorite over the Rebels.
Probably a
No single-
2-touchdown
I would
favorite.
definitely pull him at this stage. I would definitely pull him at this
It's
stage.
fine. The stats
And I am
does
not a
go hard. The
baseball
stats go
expert,
hard.
but I would say it's probably time.
After that, yeah.
He's just, I mean, dude, about threw that bat to China, through the earth. So I would definitely pull him. You know, I mean, Ole Miss does not have a capable offense. We'll see what the Rebels can do as time goes on. Their first real game is going to be Alabama. That's the crazy part for Ole Miss. They are not going to be challenged before that game. All right, Penn State at Michigan.
I think Michigan at home by a touchdown. I think they went around 10. I don't think either. I think
You're not in love with either of these
I'm not in
teams.
love with either of these. I'm not in love with the Big Ten in general this year. I think it's kind of just Ohio State and everybody else. But these are teams 2 and 3 in the Big Ten, so it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top.
You don't think
Michigan-
Nebraska's a top 3 team in the Big Ten?
Maybe with Scott Frost. But no, I don't. I think the Big Ten is a little overrated. Ohio
Wait,
State's
where
kinda-
are we at here with the little overrated? Like, so the SEC is the best league, okay.
Big Ten is too, but it's not close. Like the people that say
So
it's
the
close
test is
confuse
always
me.
lining things up, right? Like, who is number 1? Who's your number 1 team in the SEC? Are you going to go Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay, so Georgia would play
It's
Ohio
Georgia.
State. And then where would you go from there?
It would be Alabama versus Michigan.
Would Alabama win that game?
I think so.
Probably.
And then Tennessee's your 3rd best team this year against Penn State. Would Tennessee beat Penn State?
I
think so,
I would
too.
think so.
So
I mean,
who's
I don't think
4?
it's a certain
4 is
team.
Minnesota probably, or Iowa.
Oh, Minnesota's a dog this week to
Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin. That trio is kind of.
There's another.
Who am I missing right now?
It's not a good league.
That's what I'm saying. It's
No.
like, so is there really only one good league? That's the question. But I think Michigan will cover that 7-point spread. Texas, 15.5 at home against Iowa State. I like that. I think Texas is actually pretty solid.
Wow, they're beating people's brains in right now.
Look, Quinn Ewers has been the difference. The dude is for real. He's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. That's what he's showing us.
He's certainly very gifted, and I don't care who you are, if you're winning 50-0, you're doing something right. So a massive win for the Horns this past week over. I don't know what's going on wrong at Alabama. Did you order those?
Yeah, I did.
No, okay. Listen, we talked about this. We're at Paloma Park.
The pretzel bites are awesome.
I would totally recommend the pretzel bites. They are outstanding. This guy now he's got a different. He's not got the glass Modelo. He's gone to the can.
He switched up.
It's smart.
It's his new favorite drink.
It's a good drink.
He said it's overtaken Bud for him.
Iowa State at Texas. You've got the Horns.
I've got the Horns.
So you like Tennessee, which I'm not sure.
I'm feeling a little crazy.
No, it can happen.
No, but I think it just feels like it feels like it's gonna happen. I don't know, but I mean they've looked good this year.
Balls.
Outside of Florida, I thought Florida hung around with them for way too long. That was the only game. But going to LSU and winning by 27 points in that stadium, that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
The Phillies are having the best inning they've ever had. You can't cuss to the people.
I didn't.
I think now you pulled him.
I thought they pulled him.
Yeah.
They did not pull him already? They did pull him, didn't they? Yeah, they should have. 6-0, that's going to be tough. NC State at Syracuse.
I like Syracuse. Syracuse is a slight favorite. I just kind of threw that one on there just because Syracuse plays well against these better teams in the ACC in the middle of the day. We've seen them play well against Clemson. Those are usually like noon and 3:30 kicks. That's 3:30 up in Syracuse. I like them over. I think NC State's just not that good. Oklahoma State at TCU. I like Oklahoma State. I think they're the best team in that conference right now.
TCU is a 4-point favorite.
TCU is a 4-point favorite home. They're both undefeated.
So you think
I think Oklahoma State's the best team in the Big 12.
They're better than Texas?
Well, Texas
I'm
is
just
a 2-loss.
asking. It's okay.
It's 2-loss. I'm kind of looking ahead. I think Oklahoma State is your best chance to get into the playoff if you're the Big 12, because a 2-loss Texas is not getting in, even if it is your best team.
No, they will not.
So Oklahoma, I think, is their last chance. Because I just don't. TCU's all right. Their quarterback's been playing well, but I think Oklahoma State's quarterback's been on a lot. Spencer Sanders. He's made a ton of plays over the last few years. He has a lot of experience. I like them. I think Georgia covers against Vanderbilt.
So I think Georgia covers as well. Now, I thought they covered last week, and they did, and nobody was with me. So I kind of wonder right now.
I was with you.
If that's true, I kind of wonder right now if you can get a backdoor cover for Vanderbilt or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, I think that Georgia puts 50 on the scoreboard for the first time.
Well, they have not done that this season.
They haven't done that. They got close twice. They got 49 and they got 48. That coming against Oregon and South Carolina. I think they break that 50-point barrier this week. We saw them put up more than 50 points, I think, 3 times last year. Vanderbilt, UAB, and Charleston Southern. So I think they get their first 50-point game of the year. And I have a hard time seeing Vanderbilt get into Georgia's end zone.
Well,
it's going to take one of those dumb plays like Jacquez Hunter's play last week where he just broke a couple tackles and broke off. It's going to take a broken assignment like the Missouri one-handed touchdown catch 2 weeks ago. It's going to take something like that for someone to score. And I don't think Georgia lets that happen 3 weeks in a row. So I think they get a couple field goals, maybe 3 of them. But this should be a single-digit Vanderbilt, and this should be a 50 or more Georgia win. That's just what it should be. You like that game, LSU Florida?
It's a great classic SEC rivalry. The Gators and LSU. It's a weird rivalry. It is a rivalry. But we're going to probably lose these type of games in the near future when the SEC goes to 9 games. You will gain Georgia, Texas every other year, but you'll lose LSU, Florida. I don't think you're going to lose Georgia, Auburn. One thing about the future of this league, everybody, Georgia cannot play everybody. Georgia can't play Alabama, Auburn, Florida,
They have
Tennessee.
their rotation.
You can't
They
play
have
everybody.
People complaining about the conversation we had. Why aren't they playing Texas A&M? Why aren't they going to?
Well,
because they have a schedule, bro, and they're going to
can't-
stick to their
I mean,
schedule.
Georgia can't play everybody, and Texas A&M can't play everybody. And there's only Texas A&M can only win about 7 games a year anyway. So you don't want to get them to 4 and 8. But
we knew that 4 and 8.
Let's talk about this for a second, because when you've got, in 3 years, call it.
Okay.
So 3 years, Georgia and Alabama are going to play every other year. So even years, Georgia's going to go to Bama, and odd, they're going to come here. And, same thing with Texas and Oklahoma and Missouri. So I look forward very much to the road trip to Missouri, and then 2 weeks later going to Oklahoma, right? That's what the new SEC is going to be. But what it's also going to be is a television product, the likes of which the Big Ten really cannot compete with. The Big Ten has done a good job of spreading their games out over, not Thursdays, but they often play on Fridays. They go noon, afternoon, and they'll have the ability now to play at night. One of their worries in that league has been at night in the Midwest is just too cold.
It's freezing.
They won't do it.
Yeah.
So there comes a time when they got it. So now the SC and UCLA will be out there.
Well, some of those home games will be in LA.
It gives them the capability to play at night on Fox. But the SEC, when you look at this week in particular, you've got LSU, Florida, huge TV game. You've got Auburn at Ole Miss. You've got Alabama at Tennessee. That would be your ABC, boom, boom, boom. Now, the ABC would still have Clemson, Florida State. So Clemson, Florida State would probably kind of kick Auburn, Ole Miss to ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
So your day would be, something like LSU at Florida at noon, Knowles, Clemson at 3:30, and then you close with the third Saturday in October. When the Dogs play the Gators, that week you would have. I know, Pete, that the university would like to keep that game during the day, and I understand the drinking aspect and all this stuff. They're getting paid tens of millions of dollars a year. If Disney wants that game at night, it will be at night. Now, I'm not going to talk about who I've talked to, but I've certainly talked with folks at the league, and they acknowledge that if teams want to play games at a particular time, they will listen to that. But their television partner is going to pay each of these schools another $20 to $30 million a year as it stands right now in a couple of years. If they go to 9 games and they want Georgia and Florida to kick off at midnight in Jacksonville, it's going to kick off at midnight in Jacksonville, period. So that's just kind of where we're at. 6 runs is not the end of the world. It's not ideal.
Great.
Not ideal. So when you start thinking about the future and when Georgia and Texas play, it's going to be Georgia, Texas, and then it's going to be Oklahoma,
LSU,
Alabama, and then it's going to be Alabama, LSU playing Tennessee, and those are going to be your ABC games, and then you're still going to have Ole Miss going to Kentucky. I mean, it's going to be name brand after name brand after name brand, and it's going to be the reason why the SEC wanted to flip Tennessee, Georgia to where it is now is because they wanted a broadcast game at the end of the season. And Georgia, Texas A&M was that in 2019. Now it's Tennessee, Georgia. So they don't have Auburn, essentially going back-to-back against Georgia and then Alabama on CBS. They want to spread out the CBS games. They're never going to get rid of Georgia, Auburn. That game is too big of
It's too big of a
It's
rivalry.
a huge game on television.
You can't get rid of that.
5 million viewer game. So then when you incorporate and say, okay, we're going to say Tennessee, Georgia. We're going to say this is going to be for the East. either Tennessee's going to win it at the end, or they're going to try to stop Georgia from winning at the end. And then, by the way, we're going to put Kentucky as the second to last game of the season, so the Dogs have to wrap it up. These are all potential CBS broadcast games. In a few years, they will have the capability of putting, Georgia, Kentucky near the end. But those are really good, I have to say. This is all about television, and as soon as we understand that, like, for instance, there are more people at Paloma Park right now than are watching us, okay? But there are thousands of people that watch us all the time. At Sanford Stadium, it is impossible to have 5 million people in that stadium.
Oh, no. I mean, you get
It is
93,000. That's what you get.
That's all you get.
It's 92.
It is
and some
not
change.
impossible for 5 million people to watch the Dogs play.
No. And they do.
And they do.
Watch the Dogs play.
And that's what you're getting right now is, well, why are we playing this game at noon? Or why are we playing this game? It's only because of TV. And for all the complaining that the LSU folks have done through the years, you're taking their money. You can complain, but you're taking their money. It's not, I think
why
it's
are they
not.
complaining?
LSU and South Carolina, if they had their way, would play night games every single time. That is their tradition. That is what they do. Georgia does not have that tradition. It is a challenging situation for Georgia to play night games for a lot of different reasons. But at South Carolina, that is a tradition at Carolina. It's certainly a tradition at LSU.
Yes.
And that is something that, people want. And LSU wanted to play Tennessee at night. But much like Oklahoma complaining about playing Nebraska at 11 o'clock local, there's nothing, it's just what it is, and
regardless, you have to lace up. You gotta get the pads on.
I understand why.
The real complainers are not the players
It's
and the
the fans.
coaches. It's
Yes,
the fans, the boosters.
And I understand that, whereas you and I really like noon games.
For work purposes,
For
I'm
work
upset
purposes.
about tomorrow.
You are not?
I'm upset about tomorrow.
You
for
would
work
prefer it be
purposes.
a-
I would have preferred it be night or noon. One of the two.
Yeah.
I thought 3:30 was the worst case scenario for tomorrow.
Well-
specifically tomorrow.
As it relates to tomorrow,
The slate is just so good tomorrow. We haven't even gotten through all these games.
as it relates to tomorrow, just one other thing as it relates to the television situation, which is, this is the one game, because it being homecoming, where Georgia can sort of say, hey, we want this game at X. So Georgia sort of nudged them towards 3:30. Georgia's traditional start time in Athens is 1 p.m. That has slowly faded away over the last 30 years. I don't know. Certainly 20. Georgia no longer plays 1 o'clock games.
They have a lot of 3:30 games. They have a lot
They
of
have
noon
plenty
games.
of 3:30 games.
They get it feels like they get 1 4
And the
o'clock kick per year.
reason, and the reason why Georgia always wanted to do 1 o'clock through the years is they would say to you, it gives fans who do not live close to home the ability to go and come back in the same day. So if you live in Tifton, if you live in Hayhira or Camden County or Folkestone, you could, I would not, that's too far. You could go and come back in the same day.
Yeah, man, we've done some. Auburn's a day trip for us.
Auburn's tough.
That's not fun.
That's why they're doing it. Again, we're at Paloma Park downtown in Athens. It's filling up. We're watching the Braves,
Paloma.
who have dug a ditch for themselves, which is somewhat of a postseason tradition for the Braves. But we're hanging in there. It's still early in the game.
It's not even halfway done.
Yeah,
It's not even halfway done.
Just got to get some guys in, and then take it from there. All right, your Mississippi State Bulldogs are going to Kentucky.
I like Mississippi State.
I
like
do
the
not
minus
like
4.
Kentucky right now.
I don't like Kentucky right now. You don't close well against. You should have beat Ole Miss. You gave it to them about 3 or 4 times at the end of that game. You got to win that game. I'm getting louder because it's getting louder for the Braves.
Well, it's one down. We're gonna need a run. We're gonna need a run. This is not. You can't hit a 6-run home run, right? So just kind of nickel and dime your way back into this game.
You just
You're on
you
second
have to
with
chip
one down.
away.
You're on second with one down.
Boom, chip away. The air raid's been working for them this year. They've been winning games for Mississippi State, and Kentucky's not as good as they were last year.
No.
And honestly, looking back on it, why did we all think they were going to be? Just because Will Levis has now got another year as a starting quarterback? That doesn't matter when you lose some of your best talent. Your offensive line's not playing well because I think 2 or 3 of them got drafted to the NFL. Wan'Dale Robinson, your best offensive weapon, drafted to the NFL. He's on the New York Giants now. Chris Rodriguez, who was supposed to be one of the 2 or 3 best running backs in the SEC, doesn't look like that right now. So, and Will Levis, your experienced quarterback, is making really dumb plays towards the end of the game. So you're losing these games. Mississippi State, they've just been clicking more.
State is trouble, man. I mean,
that's an interesting game for Georgia in November.
It's a very, very tricky game for Georgia. And they better watch. It's a very tricky game for Alabama and Ole Miss. I mean, the Rebels are going to have to close with Mississippi State. That is not that. I love that game so much. I love that game. I love the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and I love Georgia.
That's just a great week. It's a fantastic week in America. That's a great week for America.
But see, my favorite week of sports.
I like watching the Cowboys lose on Thanksgiving.
To your
Dad
Falcons.
won't like that.
To your Falcons.
To the Falcons, yeah. If the Falcons would ever get a Thanksgiving,
I can't recall the last time the Falcons played on Thanksgiving. I feel like Matt Ryan
not in my
did.
lifetime.
They did not.
I don't remember that.
You see why I have my
that.
glasses on right now?
I would know. I do see it.
Okay.
It's like the one little through the trees.
We don't have much longer. 2-2. This is a huge pitch.
Let's watch.
Look at, and this is a game I certainly will watch for.
We got a question that people
Oh, okay.
in the chat.
What's
We got
your
a question. Could state legislators potentially play a role in determining game times in the SEC? That's from Eric Moreau.
No, this is a private contract between the Southeastern Conference and, in this case, Disney in the
He
near
said
future.
Disney versus the state.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's a private contract. There's nothing that the state. There's so many. That would be like the state saying that we can have events at Paloma Park or not. I mean, like it's not. I hear the Redcoats now. You hear them? Homecoming in Athens, Georgia.
I see them too, in the distance.
They're Redcoats.
It looks like they're on Hancock, which is the next street over.
They're going that way.
They're on Hancock right now, which is the
Thank you.
It's Broad, Clayton, Washington, Hancock.
I'm very appreciative of your geography
There's
lessons.
your
I'm looking right into the sun.
Your topography lesson about Athens.
Topography. I believe it's still geography.
Maps.
Topography is the
map making.
elevation. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, map making.
Exactly. My brother-in-law's a
That's like a middle school trivia question.
You have trivia questions.
We do have trivia questions. Are we going in on them?
I don't know. Let's keep going with this.
Yeah,
Mississippi. So again, we're at Paloma Park. Everybody watching. Everybody here is having a very good time, I have to say. And
they're all listening very intently to what we have to say.
They definitely care. They're in and out some, but the online audience is watching for sure. If you can't make it today, make it out tomorrow. They will have everything pregame. I don't know what time they start open for pregame, but
I think it's 10 or 11.
That early?
Yeah, 10 or 11 at Paloma here tomorrow. But people get mimosas. They get their morning drinks on.
When's the last mimosa you had?
A few months ago.
So sometime.
A few months ago. That's probably the last time I had a mimosa.
Georgia homecoming is such a big event. A lot of folks who are, what's the word, in town, maybe sometimes for the only time this year they're in town. But it's a great, chance to celebrate the school, chance to really, what I think about with homecoming is fundraising. They get the chance to fundraise. That's really important at a place like Georgia, and anywhere really, but you want to get a win.
It's fun. We are about to enter like the most perfect time of the year.
Now, okay, go ahead. We already have the NBA is right around the corner.
The NBA is about to start.
NHL has started. Baseball.
We're in
playoffs.
the heat of college football. We're in the baseball playoffs. The NFL is in full swing.
So all major.
The weather is getting to be its peak, and as far as the scenery is about to be its peak when all the leaves turn. The prime of fall is the best time of the year.
You like fall.
Halloween is fun.
Rank your seasons. What are you getting your family for their
Spring
Halloween
is
gift?
last for me.
What is your Halloween gift for your family?
Yo, we don't do that. So you just tell
Oh,
your daughter
need to-
that's
yeah.
not a thing.
Well, you're not normal.
So now that your daughter wants a Halloween gift,
What
you're
is
gonna have
your
to
What
get
is
her
your
one.
Halloween gift?
My Halloween gift? A cool costume, which I haven't decided this year.
What was your favorite costume?
Oh, when I was a kid?
Yes.
Ah, man. Well, my favorite superhero, like Marvel
We need to
character
get
growing
Kirby
up,
Smart Halloween photos.
a Kirby Smart, like, costume? Like,
No,
with the
no.
headset and the visor and stuff?
No. We need to have photos of him as a Halloweener, as a Halloween goer.
I don't
Can
think he's celebrating
Can
Halloween.
you do Halloween on Sunday night?
See, this Halloween, he's going to be prepping for Tennessee. If you ask him, what are you doing for Halloween? I bet you his answer is, oh, I'm worried about Tennessee.
Yeah.
I'm worried about Tennessee.
I understand that.
Because, is Monday Halloween this year?
I believe.
I'll be sure to ask him.
I'm not sure.
I'll be sure at 12 o'clock on Halloween to ask him that. What are you dressing up as tonight? You ready? What do you think the answer would be? I'll do it. Let me look at the calendar. Halloween's on Monday. So at noon, Tennessee week on Monday, when we have the weekly Kirby Smart, the big presser that matters, where he's in a better mood than Tuesday, I'll ask him what he or his children are doing for Halloween. I'm sure Andrew's gonna go hard.
Andrew goes hard.
Andrew's gonna go hard.
His
He might
youngest-
dress as his dad.
His
I don't know.
youngest son. I get that. Dude, there's a lot of people that dress up as Kirby Smart.
I've
That's
seen,
what I wanna
so
see.
last year I saw Stetson costumes with the mailman hat and
How
stuff
many
like
how
that.
many bros are going to be out on Halloween in Athens doing
On Monday?
Well, I don't know. You know, there's no rules. As you're in college, you can do whatever you want to do. How many people are going to be dressed up as Kirby Smart?
Handful.
Bros? Yeah. a
They
few.
may have the Kirby Smart jersey.
the jersey, but
No, if you want to dress up as Kirby Smart, there's a few things you have to do.
Okay.
The visor, the polo, the khakis, the Nikes, the headset.
does he wear ankle socks?
I could find out. I mean,
I can find out.
We can
I
ask
can find
about
out
that.
tomorrow. His son is relentless.
We can find out.
All right,
I'll see if I can find out
here's a
before the end of
couple-
this
here's a
show
couple
what kind
of
of
more.
socks Kirby's wearing.
The Taters are at Florida State. You think this game's going to be tight? I mean, when is Clemson actually going to lose a game? Because I'm not sure they will.
I think that they probably are. I honestly think that the most likely scenario is a 13-0 ACC championship.
Really?
Clemson that is in the playoff as the 2, 3, or 4.
2, 3, or
They're not going to be the 1.
Right, no, they won't.
Probably the 3. To me, if you're asking me right now, and if I made my playoff predictions, which I did write something down about that, under the assumption that because I'm predicting Tennessee to beat Alabama at this point, I would have Georgia playing either I couldn't come up with my fourth team. If Alabama's not in it, I had a really hard time coming up with my fourth team. And it's either the Pac-12 or the Big 12 champion.
You're saying right now.
I really, maybe I'm stupid, and I've been wrong about a lot of games,
Maybe.
but I'm also right about a lot of games.
So you're saying right now today that Alabama will lose 2 games.
Yes, Tennessee and Georgia.
Okay.
I can hear it. It sounds like they're behind us.
They
now.
are
It
behind
sounds
us.
like they made it to Clayton.
They do the.
It sounds like they made it to Clayton
I know
abroad.
Clayton, man.
Well, I'm just helping you with your Athens
I know-
geography, since you clearly are having a problem.
I am well aware that Paloma is on Washington. Okay.
Well, that's all that
I'm
matters,
well
right?
aware that Red Zone
All that
is on-
matters is that Red Zone's on
I'm
Clayton and Paloma's on
Red
Washington.
Zone. So we're good. How about SC at Utah? See, I think this is a
I think
very
this is Utah.
curious
I think
game.
this is Utah at night in
Very
Salt Lake
curious.
City.
That's a tough game.
I like the Utes. I like their
That
quarterback.
is a tough game.
They're 4-2. They're hungry. They're pissed off. USC, I doubt they're going to be perfect in Lincoln Riley's first year there under the regime. I've been impressed with the 6-0 so far. I've been impressed with the way that they do have the ability to score. We know what Caleb Williams is. He's a very dynamic quarterback. He's probably one of the 5 most talented quarterbacks in college football, but I think they fall tomorrow night to Utah
They did lose.
because I
But is that-
do not predict a 12-0 season for them.
But-
But now, even if they lose tomorrow, they're still playoff contenders. That's
I
not
agree. I was just
completely
gonna
out of the
ask you.
question.
I was
And
just gonna
honestly, I do have them in the playoffs. They're probably my 4 is USC. But Oregon is still in the playoff picture, man. because they could be a 12-1 Pac-12 champion, beating USC. In the
So
Pac-12.
Oregon has gone from
getting
their
destroyed,
absolute face caved in to Georgia
to being good,
to being an extremely scary offensive team who's scoring 50 points a game since they left Atlanta. I would just not be in the Eastern time zone if I were them. I think and that would work out well. They ran into a buzzsaw. Obviously, Georgia's not 46 points better than Oregon, okay? And I think this weekend is a huge weekend in college football, okay? Tennessee, Alabama, Michigan, Penn State, Clemson, Florida State, a little bit, but SC, Utah, these are all four of those games are either tricky or you got a matchup of undefeateds. Now, Florida State gave away their game to NC State a week ago, so that was not great, because then if they had beaten Clemson, they would be in control of their own destiny. They are not in control of their own destiny. Boy, the Phillies are just...
I mean, they have an opportunity to go
they are taking it to the Braves. The Falcons would never be in this position.
The fact that you just said that, though, just shows how poorly the Braves are playing right now.
It's not good.
The Falcons would never be in this position. They've been in this position.
What about this question here? What more needs to happen for Georgia to be considered the clear-cut best program and Kirby the clear-cut best coach?
What do you think the answer to that is? At what point do we say that 100%, because it's been Alabama for 10 years now, they're the clear-cut best program?
Well, people tried to put Dabo in there after 18. They tried.
But it's just not the truth. The truth is in Alabama.
It's not true, I know. But
when does the truth become, like, what more has to happen? Because it's not enough yet.
No, it's
not. But they've done a lot. What more needs to happen for us to just confidently say, with no question, George is the best program, Kirby is the best coach of college football? Is it? I think it's 2 more national championships over the next 5 years.
This is clearly a Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State fight, first of all.
And I think USC and Texas are on the rise.
SC can certainly kind of hang out.
They're a side character.
Well, I mean, SC is, I mean, listen, it's got to be more than, they got to recruit better, first of all. But if he does not win 2 more national championships in the next 10 years, something's gone wrong, in my opinion. I don't know if that means that he's a clear-cut national, best coach. Okay. In addition, none of this is in a vacuum. College football is a zero-sum game. Someone wins, someone loses, and the only way for Kirby to be the clear-cut best coach in college football is for Nick to leave. It is impossible for Kirby. It is impossible for Kirby to be the best college football coach while Nick is around. While Nick's got 6 national championships. It's just not. You can't really have that discussion. You can say he's the best coach right now. I think you could say he's the best coach this season. Okay, but is he the
Kirby?
We can have that discussion.
Who's been the best coach of college football this season?
I mean, either Ryan Day or Kirby. And then I was about to cuss, but I mean, Nick has saved Alabama a couple of times. Heupel, we'll see.
Tomorrow, tomorrow's going to tell us so much more about this league this year.
If you are Tennessee, you cannot go up there, or you cannot be at Neyland and lay an egg. And for too many years, Tennessee has laid an egg. I mean, that's just all there is to it. So, Josh Heupel being the best coach in college football, okay, well, I don't know about that, but it is to me intellectually dishonest to say, oh, Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football right now. I don't see how you can say that. I mean, I think he's better than Dabo, but it's not about
Is he 2 and that's just what it is right now?
I think he's 2 and that's what it is.
And I think George is 2, and that's as far as a program. I'm not talking about as a team.
They might be the best program.
So that's what my question. That was my question, though. Is Georgia the best program in college football? This is
very nuanced.
Be direct.
This is very nuanced.
That's my question.
It's hard to.
if you're a 5-star,
So
if you're
listen.
a 5-star and location doesn't matter that much to you, where do you go?
Well, I would not go to Ohio State because of the weather.
No,
that's
location
me.
doesn't matter.
What now?
Which program do you want to be a part of? If
Well,
you're
that's
a 5-star
that's-
right now.
I mean, they all three are really good
They're in
situations.
their own tier.
Yeah, they are in their own world.
They're in their own tier.
So Bama, Ohio State,
I'm
Georgia.
going in on these
Go ahead.
prices. I'm going in.
Bama, Ohio State. Well, you can't eat them, and they're really good. I have to say, you cannot be intellectually honest and say, Oklahoma is a joke. Texas is no, not yet, not now. Ole Miss always does this. Okay. What has separated Ohio State, Georgia, and Bama from everyone else is recruiting, period. And it's that simple. And when you look at, what concerns me for Bama right now is that the next quarterback is not like the current quarterback, okay? And that was the discussion a year ago, was that Bryce Young was better than Mac Jones 2 years ago, whatever it was. That didn't turn out to be true. You cannot compare everyone else's recruiting to Bama, Georgia, and Ohio State. So when you sit there and look at Texas A&M,
That was a one-time
deal.
And
And
is
by the
not
way,
going to help you.
you did not hang out. Dylan called me during that game. I said, you know how you changed the narrative about your program? You beat Alabama right now. And they didn't. So
Controversy.
I like that.
I'm not a fan of the Phillies jerseys.
No, they look terrible. The red pinstripes.
The font is awful. The font
He
is.
got way out there. No, he got it. You cannot compare the situation. Now, what Ohio... So, the narrative against the Dogs for years was they can't win the big one, Paul. And they did win the big one.
Oh,
So now they won the big one, right?
they did.
Right.
And against.
I told my wife when I sent her down to watch Clemson play Alabama, when they beat Alabama in 16, I said that Clemson will never play a game bigger than this. They beat Alabama at their peak. For Georgia, they didn't beat Alabama at their peak, but they beat Alabama. They vanquished the Alabama Dragon, so to speak. All right. Until Ohio State wins the national championship, it's going to be hard to put them in that group. But they're there. But it's hard to put them in that group because they haven't won it yet. That's all. They're a better program than Clemson. They're a better program than Texas. They're a better program than SC. But those guys are all sort of, everyone's kind of in the same universe. Clemson can win the national championship this year. SC could, Texas can't. But you get my point. There are teams out there that can do it. But the same three at the top are not going to change anytime soon. We're at Paloma Park, Washington Street. Come join us. It's getting more and more crowded. Folks are really having a good time. They prefer the Braves to play better, but it is what it is. Now, I've talked a lot about those three teams. And right now today, probably Georgia would be favored against Bama. I don't know who would be favored between. Yeah, they would.
I think Ohio State would maybe be.
I don't know who would be favored between
Ohio State has the best odds right now, according to Vegas, right, to win the national
championship. But they do not play Georgia or Alabama to get to the semifinals.
And they also, well, they might have
to get to the semifinals.
Oh, to get no. That is the thing about Ohio State, is they have not been tested even the way Georgia or Bama has been tested this year. Georgia and Bama have played a tougher schedule than Ohio State has. And I don't think it's really that close. They've just played better teams. Georgia's played Oregon. And even just like the
Oregon could totally be in the playoff.
Oregon could be in the playoff. They're a playoff contender. Even the minuscule SEC teams, they're better than the minuscule Big Ten teams.
Oregon could totally be in the playoff. And if I were Georgia and I were rematching up with Oregon, I'd know real quick that it's about to be a different game. All right, the Braves got out of that inning, and now it's time to start scoring runs, right? You don't want to wait until the 7th. So it's about time. But if they played Oregon again, it wouldn't. Well,
I don't know that it'd be 49-3, but I do think Georgia would still win that game.
It might not be in Atlanta. It could be in Phoenix. That's a very different conversation completely. You know, that game was in Atlanta. That was a home game for the Dogs. There might have been 7,000 Oregon folks there. They were being very sarcastic about their team at the time, and Oregon was figuring themselves out. Georgia had an understanding of themselves in that moment and absolutely throttled them. But that would be 4 months after they played them. It would be a different situation.
It would be different.
So, SC or Oregon's going to come out of that thing, all right? I think in the ACC, you're really only looking at Clemson because too many teams have stumbled. My suspicion is that Clemson will lose in the regular season. I don't think that will prevent them from getting into the playoff, but I think they'll probably stumble. They're just not. It's not all tied up.
The details aren't
yeah,
good. The offense isn't great. The defense is good. The offense is not great. DJU has played better than he's played last year, but he hasn't been a star.
Their line. Their Clemson's offensive line.
There's a vortex.
There is
here.
definitely a vortex. Well, we put the mics too close together. Their offense. Clemson has not. I've watched every game they played except the NC State game where they played really well. It is not all there right now. They struggled against Furman. They had a hard time against Louisiana Tech for about two and a half quarters. They're just not crisp. Now, you can put it together, but you'd rather put it together the whole time than, trying like the Braves here having to rally and get 6. You'd rather get 6 as you go rather than 6 all at once, And the other thing about Georgia's situation is this to me, okay? Okay, let's say Stetson has a bad game. Stetson has a bad game, they can run it. Or they showed that against Auburn. Let's say they don't run it. We've seen that Stetson can
save
dig
you.
them out.
He can help save you.
I don't know when they've not played well defensively. Kent State, are we really going to say that?
No, they haven't had a single game where the defense didn't play well. They're just in the games where the offense has struggled and the defense has given up a couple of plays, it makes it look completely different than what it actually was. And the defense has pretty much dominated. All right, there's been a handful of touchdowns, and that's it. And most of them have just been like, okay, well, that touchdown's just going to happen sometimes. Go hard. They're really good, man. They really are good. At Paloma Park with the beard shoes.
Very good, man.
They're just across the board. This team is legit again, and we keep saying, "Oh, they struggle here, they struggle here." Yeah, they have been pretty sloppy for a month, and they're still killing people for the most part. So, what happens when they do kink out all the details? Are they just killing people by more points? I mean, or is that who they are? Or are they a sloppy team? Are they just
I do not think they're sloppy.
Do you think they're closer to what they were in Oregon?
I think they're about what they were against Carolina. I mean, Carolina.
Well, that's just as impressive.
Well, it was 24-0, and they were. This is a really good Georgia team. This team can win the national championship. This team is not exceptional at any one position except tight end, probably, and they are exceptional at tight end. But, we know where the bodies are buried. And we know where they struggle. And it's easy for us to say, Stetson's not playing as well as he should. And he's throwing for 250 yards, no interceptions, and they're scoring 42 points. Auburn would kill for the problems Georgia's got right now. Auburn would kill for them.
Yeah,
and they do
would.
not have these problems. Auburn's about to fire their head coach. Auburn's about to go through a generational change again. It's just challenging. It's Dean Legge and Ryan Curley here from Dog Post again at Paloma Park. We're having a wonderful time eating our
pretzel bites and our Paloma.
A Paloma, which is some sort of tequila-based drink, and our.
It's good.
Well, I'm not saying it's not.
Are you man enough to drink pink? Is my question.
Oh, it's fine.
October. This is an October theme drink.
And then, let me tell you something. Everybody out here is getting whatever they want. They have a slew of drinks. If you want domestics, you can get that. But there's a bunch of stuff out here. They got beer. What are they called? Beer buckets. sometimes alliteration leaves me hanging, but I think this has become a Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State thing. You know, the only 3 teams that have played for the national championship this decade are Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State. They're the 3 teams right now who are ranked 1, 2, 3. They look like they're going towards the playoffs with a bullet, but you know,
I don't know if it's
we'll just see.
Right.
Oh no,
Sure.
you're not. You know, it's in the 5th still. You still have plenty of time. But you got to get guys on. But that's now. Folks might get bored with this nationally, but what you're going to see too is when the playoff expands, you're going to see more teams lose. You know, Georgia's not going to go 12-0 when they're playing Texas, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, and the Gators all in one season. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Okay, Alabama's not going to stay undefeated when they're playing the equivalent. They got it hard enough as is in the West.
Yes.
So this is going to be a very different type of college football than we've seen. You know, the Big 8 is dead. All this stuff, it's all gone, and the world will change, but it will be a more entertaining thing. I like the playoff expansion, personally. I think that it will give...
I didn't like it at first, and there's still some things I don't like about it, but I've come on board to it.
Why?
Imagine a night home playoff game at Sanford Stadium, or
what happens?
Or at Death Valley.
What happens when the Florida Gators come to Athens for a playoff game at night, a week after the SEC championship?
The town will
explode. People will go straight up. What happens if Auburn? What happens if Auburn comes to Georgia for a playoff game? That would be insane. Go ahead.
It would be the busiest weekend in Athens in its history. In its history, I don't think that's crazy to say. There would never be a busier weekend in the city. If you had a home night playoff game, for days, this place would be buzzing. And especially if it was against an SEC opponent like Auburn or Florida. It would be the happiest, most excited, most anxious people ever were in Athens for Georgia football. I don't know what happened here with mine.
I think you turned it off. I think you could see the Jackets come in here for a playoff game. That's not out of the realm of possibility. You could see
maybe in like 20 years.
Well, you could see Georgia go to Tech. You could see Georgia play at Ohio State. The one thing about
anywhere, man. That would be round 1. Round 2 is where it would go to sites.
Correct. And the big thing to point out here is that the 5 through 12 would play on the sites, and what the Big Ten is so adamant about is that you have home games. The Big Ten wants home games in the winter.
Yes.
In Big Ten country. So they are adamant that's what's going to happen. I have that on pretty good authority that that's going to happen. So Georgia could have to, if Georgia is if LSU or Georgia, they're the 10 and the 7, the 10 and the 12, then they're going to Penn State. You know, what happens when Georgia has to travel to Penn State, you know, for a playoff game? I mean, these matchups would be I would be very excited about that myself.
It would be fun.
It would be
really fun. It would be great for the college towns that thrive off of the games. But economically, there's a lot of advantages. These Athens hotels.
This place would be going bonkers.
It would be legendary. It really would be, and that's one of the huge reasons why. And it equals more football.
Notre Dame is involved in this too. They will almost certainly always host. Now, not always, but almost always, because they can't win the conference. So therefore they have to be a 5 through 12. Now, right now they would not get into the playoff, but they would almost certainly host if they were undefeated. So your 5 through 9 would host. No. Your 5 through 8 would host.
Yes.
And one of those would be Notre Dame. it's totally possible. Is probable the SEC loser would host. Okay, so it would be an exciting time in football. Someone finally got a tower. It would be.
I saw a Sangria tower go by
okay.
earlier.
It would be an
But
exciting
the
time in
towers are
football.
fun.
You know, and it's going to become college football is going to become Champions League. That's what it's going to be. You're going to have your own pods. You're going to play in English Premier. If you're Liverpool, you're still going to play Tottenham. But you're also going to get Bayern Munich. You're going to get, Madrid. You're going to get everybody, Ajax. But in this world, if SC misses out on getting into the playoff because they lost the Pac-12 as an undefeated team, they will still host the Georgia Bulldogs. If Georgia is the 12, that game will be at the Coliseum. It will be almost certainly in prime time, and people will be going nuts for it. They will have a great time.
It would be awesome. It would be awesome. My biggest qualm against the expansion has been the diluting the importance of
The regular
season.
Okay.
Because that was one of the things that I enjoyed. I think as a fan, it would make me less stressed to know, okay, you can lose a couple games and still be a playoff team. But as just a bystander and someone who loves the sport and the concept, the very, very, very slight margin for error is one of the things that makes college football so different from the NFL. And I like it. Maybe not everyone does, but I do.
Well, as an old basketball guy, I would prefer that the best team be the champion rather than the one who stayed undefeated. And I think right now, those are often the same thing, but they're not
Usually.
They're not always.
Give an
the same.
example of when it wasn't the case.
Okay.
Give examples of the last 10 years of college football where you don't think the best team won the national championship.
Well, you could make a case in 13 that the national champion would not have been Florida State if there was a playoff. You could make the case in 7 that LSU would not have been the national champion if they had to survive the playoff.
Ohio State, the first playoff ever, probably did not go to the best team. It was the hot team.
But that's different, though. I'm okay with that.
That's the point of a
You killed it again. I'm okay with getting hot and going. I mean, we're seeing right now the Phillies are probably going to take a 2-1 lead over a team that they're not better than, but they are playing better than them right now. An expanded playoff in the baseball, dude. We used to have just the pennant and the World Series, and that was it. You had the NL East and the NL West, and the Braves would have to survive and then play the Padres or whoever, or I guess the Pirates, because the Braves were always in the West, and they'd play the Pirates or whoever it was, the Phillies, and it was nerve-wracking, but it wasn't as good as, to me, this is now. And there's a lot of romanticizing about what college football has always been, but now it is a big business. I don't think college football's ever been better than it is right now, to be honest. I get to watch every single game, and I do. I watch 4 college football games on Saturdays. I got the noon, the 3:30, the 7, and then the 10:30. I watch the Friday night games. I watch the Thursday night games. I typically do not watch the Wednesday night games. So as a product, it's never been better. It's never been bigger. That's my take. The days when Nebraska would play Miami for the national championship and the whole country, except those 2 little places, was shut out, that was, fine, but it wasn't as good as it is now. As soon as SC gets to where they are relevant, that will make college football even better, because in a perfect world, you would have a West Coast presence. Right now, we don't have that. It's dominated by the Southeast. It's been dominated by the Southeast since really 96. Florida, then Florida State, then Tennessee. 99 was, I can't remember, Florida State, I think. Did I say Florida State? And no, it was
Miami.
not. No, it was, you keep turning yours off. It was the Gators, and then Nebraska, Michigan, then Tennessee. 99 was somebody, then Oklahoma in 2000, Ohio State, Miami, Ohio State. 03 was LSU, 4 was SC, 5 was supposed to be SC, but it was Texas. So everybody, it's essentially been from 03 when Nick got there. I would even say back when Spurrier and then won it in 97. From that point forward, we've seen the manifestation of growth of the population in the South explode into championships on the field. And, the last 3 national championships have all come from the Southeastern Conference. I don't know, you X out Florida State and Clemson and Ohio State, and it's been the national champion has been the SEC champion. Well, not necessarily the SEC champion, but the best team from the SEC.
Team from the SEC
since 2006.
A lot of these national championships.
All but 4. And we're talking about 18 years or 14 years, 10 of the national champions, and then multiple times in 11, 17, and 21, we've seen where the best 2 teams have been Southeastern Conference. Why? It does just mean more. If you were to ask that table right there, who's been sitting with us for a long time, if you were to ask that table who the governor of Alabama is, my guess is maybe one person could get that right. If you were to ask them who the starting quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide is, I would think at least half, if not more, would get that right. And that's how important
football
is. Okay? No one knows who Kay Ivey is. Everybody knows who Bryce.
I did. As someone who spent 2 months in Alabama in 2022, I very much know about Kay Ivey.
Everybody knows who Bryce Young is. Everybody knows that he's banged up. And everybody knows now that you've got the balls to beat Alabama tomorrow. Everybody knows that I don't. And I can't wait to see that game. I can't wait to come home and watch, when we get home at the half, watch Clemson and Florida State.
Does an SEC team win the national championship this year? Because there seems to be 3 real contenders right now.
If I say yes, that means it's Georgia. So I'm a little skeptical.
Well, it could be in Alabama or Tennessee. It could be Ole Miss.
I am extremely skeptical that Tennessee or Alabama would or Ole Miss would win the national championship. Because I just don't think that.
So you think Ohio State's probably?
Well, Ohio State's the betting favorite for a reason.
Who are your? I'm not focused. It's dying.
Here, we can switch.
Well, we got it for the second. Who are the 4 teams you think end up in this dance at the end here?
Well, I think Georgia will be in the playoff.
Georgia it's just gone. I think it's dead.
I do think Georgia will be in the playoff. I do think they'll be in the playoff. I'm not dumb enough to think that both Clemson and Alabama will miss the playoff. I think one, if not both of them, will be in. Okay? I think the real question after that is who's going to get in there? Is it going to be SC? Ohio State will be in. So, who is going to dislodge Clemson or Alabama? Because Clemson's path is extremely light, comparatively speaking. It is harder than it was.
But that's because they're not as good as they were.
Yes.
And that's why it's become harder, is because they're not as good as they were from 2015 to 2019.
They're not as good.
They're not. They aren't. They're still the best in their league, but they're not as dominant as they were before. And that's why we say their path is not as easy, because it's not as easy for them. It's not that their path has changed. They've changed in a negative way.
They're not as good as they were, and it's what it is. But the path is right there. Now, a really good team probably does not go into overtime with Wake Forest. Okay, that's one thing that I think that I'd be concerned about, and that's why I think tomorrow in Tallahassee is you better watch it kind of situation if you're them. Got to get him in. Got to get him in. Right? Have they knocked
Well, you have
they
to
have not
score.
they have not knocked
You
the
gotta
pitcher
score
out.
in this inning.
Yeah, have to. Have to. But I guess, Ryan, to me, if I had to guess, I would say, you know, the Dogs certainly seem on the way to the playoff. They're not in there, but I would say they're on the way. And then Ohio State / Ohio State, Michigan. But I would say the Dogs are on their way, it looks like. Alabama, I would not bet against them. Clemson has been around long enough that I know that it's tough for them to not wiggle their way in. But we'll see. They're not as good as they were. I think out west, you've got SC and Oregon specifically. Right now, if they played, I would pick Oregon. Right now. We'll see.
So probably.
We'll see, right?
Yeah.
So it's a challenging, you know, it's hard to pick this stuff, man. That, you know, Georgia, I think, has proven how good they are. They've also shown, we've got some issues. But that would ignore, everyone should have to acknowledge that. That would ignore that Ohio State struggled to close out Notre Dame. And that was a real game in the second half. I don't know if you remember driving back from the Dome to Athens.
No, I do remember that being a tight one. Wow, that feels like a long time ago now.
It was a long time ago.
Now that we're 6 games into this, going on to Game 7 tomorrow, it feels like the Oregon game was a while ago.
It was.
But looking ahead, I feel confident in Georgia and Ohio State being in it. It's the other two where I'm like, well, there's a big pool of teams. I think a 12-1 Pac-12 champion slips in as your 4, and I think Clemson, either 12-1 or 13-0, is the other team. Because right now I'm not predicting 2 SEC teams to be in as it stands, but it's a very possible thing. And it almost might be more likely than what I'm saying. But to me, it feels like Georgia's the best team in the SEC, and it feels like Ohio State is 100% the best team in the Big Ten, and they might, you know, it's them neck and neck as to who's the best team in the country. I think Georgia all around is probably a little bit better, but Ohio State's offense is just...
You think they're better than Ohio State?
From top to bottom, I think Georgia's a better football team, but I think Ohio State's offense is just so explosive. And C.J. Stroud, I mean, one of the things I wrote down for us to talk about today was he is running away with the Heisman right now. Who can take that from him? I think Hendon Hooker, because of tomorrow, has an opportunity to really turn some heads.
You do not win the Heisman Trophy in September. You can lose it. You do not, and I say this as a 15-year or 17-year Heisman voter. I voted for Reggie Bush before they took that away from him. I voted for him. He was my second guy, or first guy, whatever. You can't win the Heisman until it's cold outside, and it's not cold outside yet. And I think, to me, you know, he is by far and away right now the guy he's just racking up too many points. Too many touchdowns, too many yards. They're undefeated, but you got to be good. And he looked like he was on his way last year. And then what happened? Michigan happened. And it
was him and Bryce the whole year, though.
Yeah, but then Bryce played exceptionally.
And now Bryce has missed a couple games.
So would Bryce Young have won the Heisman if he had played the way he did against Georgia and Indianapolis?
No. Well, I mean, you're saying if the Heisman was given at the end of the year, it would have been given to C.J. Stroud?
Probably.
Yeah, because he was second, or was Kenny Pickett was in the mix?
I can't remember.
Pickett, and then Aiden Hutchinson, that was dumb. That was dumb. I know that Georgia fans hate Aiden Hutchinson. They are not Aiden Hutchinson stands at all. And I get it. For me, it's whatever. But are you watching the game on delay?
Me?
Because this is a delay for...
No, I know. I'm reading the comments.
Oh,
it's our fault the Braves are losing. So.
Of course. Yeah. We jinxed it because, you know, we scheduled this before the Braves scheduled their game, so it's our fault.
It's our fault.
It's our fault. What was I even saying?
Well, we're talking about
We're
the
talking about the Heisman. If it was handed afterwards, no. I don't know if Bryce would have won that. And if you rank like the Heisman seasons over the last 10 or so years, his was not as near as impressive as some
Talk
of the
about
other
him
ones.
being hurt tomorrow.
Well, listen, you watched what happened with Stetson last week with a banged up shoulder. Well, guess what?
Very similar
Bryce
injury.
Young has a banged up shoulder.
Yeah.
So do we expect him to be the precise, like accurate Bryce Young? If he plays, which is still not decided yet, it could be Jalen Milroe. If he's playing hurt, would you rather have hurt Bryce Young or would you rather have healthy Jalen Milroe? Probably a hurt Bryce Young.
I would rather have hurt.
But that matters, man. That matters a lot. Because if Stetson's banged up shoulder really had a lot to do with the way that he threw, and especially the first half last week, the same thing.
Thanks, Mr. Jenkins.
Yeah.
We owe you one.
And the same thing can be said about Bryce tomorrow. I mean, he may not throw the ball that well.
Let's get back to the Dogs here in our last 15 minutes. So, what do you need to see from Stetson tomorrow specifically? I got turn 2 on him. Nope. Not quite. The fans thought they got it in the inning in Philadelphia, but they did not. I tell you, man, a home run right now would be ideal. A home run right now would be ideal for the Atlanta Braves.
Be helpful.
You got to catch that. That's 2 errors by the first baseman. They got to make the guy pay. They got it slipped away the first time. That's got to be an out. You know, they got to make him pay right now. Terrible.
That's another error, man.
Yeah, it is. So I think tomorrow, as it relates to Stetson and the offense, you know, well, the crowd will tell us what happens.
Yeah.
I think.
What do you need to see?
I think you want to just be crisp tomorrow.
Yes.
Get in and out. I think if you're seeing Carson Beck throw the football in the third quarter, you're probably in an ideal situation.
You're definitely in an ideal situation if Carson Beck gets in the game at all. Then you know that you handled business, you did your job. You probably covered the spread. They don't think about that, but you probably covered the spread. Crisp is probably the best way to put it. I want to see a crisp offense. I want to see an offense that gets down the field pretty fast.
Okay.
I want to see an offense that executes in the red zone. I want to see Stetson be more accurate because, you know,
They got
so
one.
you're going to get one right there. And they're loaded. No, they got 2 more. So, good things can happen right now. One of the biggest knocks on Stetson, and mostly 2020 Stetson, some 2021 Stetson, and something I haven't seen but maybe once or twice, is the really poor decision making. And that's what led to his bad interceptions. His decision making has just been way better. And that has eliminated a lot of mistakes. Right now it's his accuracy. I'm not talking about completion percentage. I don't care about 21 for 22 or 20 for 30. I don't give a crap about that.
Okay.
I don't care about that. I'm talking about actual ball placement. He's high, he's low, he's behind. He just hasn't been on the mark for about 3 weeks now. I want to see more accuracy. I want to see a healthier shoulder.
So it's going to be homecoming tomorrow in Athens. I mean, this should be a really nasty win for the Dogs, you would think. We're here at Paloma Park, which has gotten extremely crowded with very nervous Braves fans. They're on the corner with 2 down. And Atlanta had this opportunity in the first, I think it was. It's
That's a rookie.
Thanks, Scott.
the event is going well. We're at Paloma Park.
That's Scott last week with the red zone shirt, man.
on Washington. Very crowded. It's a very family atmosphere. It's not out of control at all. And the Braves will be on here. The Braves will be on here for a while, but we'll be here before the Tennessee game as well, which will be much more
November 4th, Friday.
fraught
a little
with
bit colder.
concern, I'm sure. But let's just see what happens with the Vols when they go to play Bama at Neyland. Let's just see what happens with Georgia over these next couple of games. There's plenty of positive momentum here, but you just want to close out Vanderbilt, and then when you get down to the Gators, they really should hammer Florida. Florida is not a good team right now.
They should hammer them the way they did in 2017 and 2018 when they went down there and just killed them.
I don't know if Florida's that bad. They're bad, but I don't know if they're that bad. All right, second and third. Second and third. 2 down, second and third. You're gonna have to have some. Second and third, you're gonna have to hit a 2-out hit.
I'm sure they care about your baseball.
You're gonna have to hit a 2-out hit. Well, I understand what the big deal is here.
Yeah.
It's the Braves, no question.
We're an afterthought right now, and that's fine.
But bro, this guy can hit a home run. I'm gonna let you know that right now. It's not a good throw. But yeah, you want to be. Let's see what happens. Oh, that could. Well, they got one.
It could have been 4.
Could have been maybe one more, but so you can't score 6 at once. But I think tomorrow, let's just see how well the run game goes. That's another thing too, and a lot of folks have come in now. Dean and Ryan from Dog Post talking about the Dogs here at Paloma Park. I think if you have a run game that is similar to the Auburn, I mean, that was scary.
That changes the way that their offense is. That opens up everything downfield. That opens up your play action game. People didn't have to respect their play action before that because they just weren't running the ball that effectively outside of a half here or a half there. On Saturday against Auburn, you saw 4 quarters of them running the ball effectively. Really just down the throats. 300 yards is not a joke.
No.
And when you have the freshman being the most effective, McIntosh gets in there. He's a passing decoy at that too. And then Dejon Edwards, you just churn it out with that guy. If they're running the ball like that, that opens up their play action. That opens up things for Brock Bowers. When A.D. Mitchell comes back, that's going to open up things for them. And certainly takes 10 pounds off Stetson's shoulders, which Kirby has acknowledged several times this year. We're asking Stetson to do too much.
Yeah.
That's something they've talked about. He said it, I want to say 3 or 4 different times this year. So when they're running, and they did run the ball effectively last year, and James Cook, Kenny McIntosh's side-to-side passing game, they consider that part of their run game.
It's very similar, yeah.
It's similar to what they did with James last year. So if it is effective the way it was last year, then you see the pressure take off of Stetson. He can just air it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know what Stetson can do. That he's not had 2 weeks in a row that have been ideal is fine. But, I don't mean, this is totally a team that, I don't know if they're on the trajectory of winning the national championship this second, but they certainly can. And you're going to have moments in seasons where people forget the games. I don't know if anybody remembers the Missouri game from last year. It was a total blowout. It was a sad.
It was boring.
It was boring. And I think the more boring games you get, the better. Frankly, because that means that you're doing what you're supposed to do. But this Georgia team has the capability of being being the conference champions, which is a major accomplishment. Only happened once here. And certainly winning the league would propel you to winning the national championship. At the end of the day, they have, raised the expectations beyond belief because of what they did a season ago. And it's going to be hard, it's going to be challenging to find moments in a season that are as special as last year's. When Keeley was running to the end zone, people were in tears. Jeff Foxworthy wrote about that. A lot of people had emotional moments from their childhood and all this stuff. It's hard to do that when you're kicking Auburn's teeth in and it's 42-10. And you were only up 14-0 at the half, and everybody wants blood thrown to the crowd. You're not going to play every time you play is not going to be the best time you played. And they played so well against Oregon. That was the last game they had played before they played in a national championship and won it for the first time in 41 years.
people wondered, is there going to be some hangover from, like a championship hangover? And there wasn't from the jump.
No.
And maybe there was a few weeks after that.
Maybe
it hit them a few weeks after that. I see upward trajectory from here on out. I think the way that the Auburn game went was really important. The way they just smothered them against a rival, a huge weekend in Athens, a better crowd than what it was for the previous games at home. And it's harder for fans to get excited about Kent State and Samford the way they can get excited about Auburn. I get it, but you still have to be loud. If they can have a balanced attack, it's hard to beat a balanced attack on offense. And if the defense keeps doing what they're doing, I don't think it has to get that much better. I think that this is certainly, without a doubt, a good enough defense to win a national championship. It's better than some defenses in the past for national championships. So if this defense even just plateaus at where they're at right now, and they're giving up 10 points a game, that is plenty enough for this offense to open up and just get better. As they get healthier, Jalen Carter and A.D. Mitchell are two of their cornerstones on this team. Those guys matter a lot. After the bye week, they are probably getting those guys back, hopefully for good.
Maybe
if
this
you're Georgia, and you
AD.
could be getting AD back for good this week. Probably not like a full AD. If the details get tuned up, they kink out the little things. The offensive line is just a little bit sharper. If Stetson's a little bit sharper, the three position groups that because I'm not really worried about the running backs. And the running backs and the offensive line go hand in hand. Because to me, it's been more on the offensive line than it's been on the running backs. The holes aren't there the way they have been in the past. But no, it's not as talented of a running back group as you've seen the last 12 years for Georgia. Whatever, that is what it is. If the offensive line plays a little better, the way they played against Auburn, that opens up everything for this Georgia offense.
Yeah, but you've got, you're talking about the running backs, but they've not had and I'll say it this way, they've not had a playmaking quarterback like Bennett. They've had good quarterbacks.
Since Aaron?
Probably Aaron, because it just wasn't great. I mean, Hudson,
and Jake wasn't a
ideal.
playmaker. He was accurate.
No. He was a manager, for lack of a better term. And then that's what people say about him, about Stetson, but does a manager take off for 70 yards?
Would you rather have Stetson better or Jake Fromm? That was one of my questions that I wrote down.
I would rather have Stetson.
I don't
over
hesitate
Jake
with
Fromm.
that either.
Yeah, I would rather have him over Jake because they both, certainly Jake understood how to win. It wasn't that. But Stetson can make plays with his feet, and that matters a lot. And I think that's the one thing that, you don't just go for 300 yards. And they did against Auburn. And 68 of those were Stetson just running. And he is impossible to catch once he gets going. He is one of the quickest guys out there. He's not as fast as Robbie, what's the guy's name? Ashford. That guy. Whew. But Stetson has functional speed. He is one of the quickest people that I've seen at quarterback. He is a playmaker. I watched JT last night. JT is lethal with his hands. But he can't, he doesn't make plays like Stetson Bennett did or does. That's the difference between those two. That's why they went with Stetson.
Stetson has the ability to turn a disaster into a big touchdown.
Yes.
Jake Fromm didn't because he can't move around like that.
Right.
Stetson can, and his pocket presence
there's four.
has been so impressive, coupled
There's 4 quarter-inch
with his
injuries.
legs is what. I mean, you can ask these guys in these press conferences, these Georgia players, they talk about how fast Stetson is.
He is.
That he's outrunning the linebackers, that he's outrunning guys. You saw him outrun. I mean, the hole was huge.
It
but
was.
You saw him outrun guys last week.
He outran all 11 Auburn
He
players.
outran the entire Auburn defense. He got there. He got to the end zone from 62 yards up. Add a few yards because he's coming out of the shotgun in the backfield, and that was a design QB draw. And we're talking about a design QB draw that went 62 yards for a touchdown. That doesn't happen very much.
Ever.
Georgia hasn't had a guy that can run like that. I mean, Justin, but he wasn't a starter. Aaron can move around, but they didn't use Aaron's legs the way they use Stetson's legs. So it's important, and it's part of why he's the starting quarterback. The other guys, Carson is the least mobile.
Yes.
The other guys are not ready. But Carson is not as mobile. The people that are banging on the door about Carson Beck. Carson Beck's not getting out of a sack the way Stetson can. And Carson Beck is not making plays with his legs, whether he has a better arm or not.
All right, so what is success tomorrow? Obviously a win. I would say, for me, I talked earlier
40-point
today.
win.
You're saying a 40-point win.
Is a good.
I would say something like that, but I'm really about yardage in this case. Can they go for 650 yards?
I'm about touchdowns tomorrow.
Well, they scored 6 touchdowns yesterday last week on the ground.
I want to see.
And that was significant.
I want to see 3 of each.
I think 3 of each is a very successful journey for Georgia. That's 42 points just from touchdowns. 3 in the air, 3 on the ground. People are freaking out about Stetson not throwing a touchdown. Part of it is scheme. Part of it's the way things have gone. Part of it is maybe him being banged up. And part of it was last week them just running the ball over them. I do want to see a couple Stetson Bennett touchdowns. I think it would make a lot of people feel better.
Well, we're going to give way to the Braves here, who are probably going to come back and win this game. I say Braves in 5 though myself, so we'll see what happens. But thanks to everybody. Thanks to everybody at Paloma Park for watching. Thanks to everybody, the thousands of folks that watched online as well. Again, it's not too late to come out here. It is crowded, but it's not so crowded that you can't find a spot. And it's really been an enjoyable evening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. For everybody who's, I know, is concentrating on the Braves, we appreciate it. Dean and Ryan from Dog Post, we're signing off.